Chloe Collins knew the meeting was over when her mother slid the brass key across the table and wiped her fingers on a napkin. It was an old key, longer than a house key, with a square head and a strip of faded red tape around the stem. Chloe recognized it before it stopped moving. Her grandfather used to keep it on a hook beside his kitchen telephone. "The station," Chloe said. Stephanie Collins nodded. At 57, she had mastered the kind of careful expression that made every decision look forced upon her. The station and the keeper's apartment. Their one parcel. Ethan leaned back in his chair. Chloe's 32-year-old brother had already placed the papers for John's house inside a clean blue folder. He liked folders, signatures, and anything that turned a difficult family matter into a completed transaction. "You always liked it up there," he said. Chloe looked from Ethan to Stephanie. They were meeting in the private room of a restaurant outside Julian, though nobody had ordered lunch. Water glasses sweated onto white paper coasters. A ceiling fan turned above them, with a soft click every few seconds. On the table lay the final division of John Collins' estate, 4 years after his death. 4 years of appraisals, tax filings, delayed signatures, and conversations that stopped when Chloe entered the room. Stephanie would receive the proceeds from John's house, along with most of his savings. She said she needed security because retirement wasn't far away. Ethan would receive John's small commercial property in town and the remaining investments. He said he could manage them properly. Chloe would receive Collins Signal Station, a storm-damaged building off Banner Grade Road, along with its leaking apartment, obsolete equipment, back taxes, and brush clearance notices. The appraisal listed its value as $18,000. Below that, someone had added estimated repair costs that were higher than the value itself. Chloe lifted the key. A little rust marked the edge. "Does the roof still leak?" she asked. Ethan gave a short laugh. "Which roof?" Stephanie didn't laugh. "The appraiser said the control room has water damage. The apartment is worse. And the taxes?" "Attached to the property," Ethan said. "So, those would be yours." Chloe turned to the last page. The overdue amount wasn't impossible, but it was more than she had in her checking account. She worked at a hardware store in town and handled small repair jobs on weekends. She had savings, though not the kind that could absorb a bad roof, electrical damage, and several years of county bills. She looked at the other folders. John's house had a good roof. He had replaced it 2 years before he died. His commercial property had a tenant. His savings didn't leak when it rained. "Was this Grandpa's decision?" Chloe asked. Stephanie folded her hands. "The will left the estate among the family. It didn't assign every item. That's not what I asked." Her mother looked toward the closed door, as if a server might rescue her. "We had to make practical choices." "We?" Chloe said. "You weren't returning calls?" "I returned every call about the probate, not immediately. I was working." Ethan pushed his water glass aside. "Chloe, nobody's trying to cheat you. The station was the only thing you expressed any attachment to. I said I remembered going there with Grandpa." "Exactly. That isn't the same as asking for it." Stephanie's mouth tightened. She had spent months telling herself Chloe would prefer the station. Chloe had been John's shadow during her 20s, especially after Stephanie grew tired of driving up the grade to check on him. In Stephanie's mind, affection created its own category of compensation. Ethan got the manageable property. Stephanie got the money. Chloe got the memories. "The place has no real use," Stephanie said. "The equipment is decades old. The access road needs work, and the utility company disconnected part of the service after the storm. If we put it on the market with everything else, the costs would delay distribution again. So giving it to me solves that. It gives you property." "It gives her a liability," Ethan said. "Let's call it what it is." Stephanie glanced at him. He shrugged. "She's going to find out." Chloe read the first page again. Her name was typed beside the parcel description. Collins Signal Station. Keeper's apartment. Equipment and fixtures remaining on site. She remembered the control room in dry weather, when sunlight came through the narrow west windows and warmed the dust on the console. John had taught her how to strip wire there. He kept screws in baby food jars and labeled each lid in black marker. When she was nervous about touching anything, he put a dead fuse in her palm and told her a machine was only a set of questions. Start with the question you could answer. That was years before his death. before a winter storm tore metal from the antenna frame and before the county marked the station as damaged. John had opened the place in 1989. For a long time, it passed radio traffic from the ridge. Later, newer systems took over most of the work. Stephanie called it his expensive shed. Ethan called it the bunker. Chloe had never heard John call it anything but the station. "Can I refuse this?" she asked. Stephanie's face softened too quickly. "Of course. Nobody can make you take it. And then, we sell the whole parcel if we can. The proceeds go where?" "Back into the estate," Ethan said, "and then get divided under your agreement." "It's the family agreement," Stephanie said. Chloe looked at the papers in front of Ethan. "The one you two already signed." Nobody answered. That silence did more than an argument could have done. Chloe understood the arrangement then. Her mother and brother hadn't met that morning to discuss what was fair. They had met to make the decision feel official enough that Chloe would be embarrassed to resist it. Ethan tapped the appraisal. "Honestly, you should refuse. We might get a contractor to take it for the land. After taxes and closing costs, there won't be much. But at least it won't keep billing you." Stephanie turned to him. "That isn't what we discussed. It's what makes sense." For the first time, Chloe saw irritation pass between them. Ethan wanted the property gone. Stephanie wanted Chloe to accept it, because acceptance made the rest of the division easier to defend. "What's still inside?" Chloe asked. Ethan frowned. "Inside what?" "The control room, old radio equipment." "Did the appraiser inventory it?" "There are photographs. Did either of you go there?" Stephanie looked down at her hands. Ethan said, "There was no reason." Chloe turned through the attachments. Exterior wall, damaged roof edge, weeds around the generator shed, a brown watermark beneath an apartment window. The control room appeared in one photograph, taken through the open doorway. The main console sat under a gray cover. A carrier panel was mounted above it, its rows of lamps dark. The room looked smaller than Chloe remembered. It also looked undisturbed. "Who has the other keys?" she asked. "That's the only set we found," Stephanie said. "Grandpa had more than one. Then they're probably inside his house somewhere." Ethan spoke before Chloe could answer. "The house has been cleared. By whom?" "By me. And you didn't find station keys?" "I wasn't looking for station keys." He had been looking for bank statements, jewelry, and anything with a clean resale value. Chloe didn't say that. She didn't need to. Ethan heard it anyway. He leaned forward. "Don't turn this into something ugly." Chloe almost smiled at the timing of that sentence. He had accepted a rented building while handing her delinquent taxes, yet ugliness had apparently begun when she asked where the keys were. Stephanie moved the deed toward Chloe. "Your grandfather trusted you with tools. You were always good with that sort of thing. Good enough to repair a condemned building?" "It isn't condemned. No, it just has warning notices." "The land is beautiful," Stephanie said. Ethan closed his folder. "That's what people say when a property has no plumbing." Chloe picked up the pen. Her mother watched her with quiet relief. Ethan watched with impatience. Neither of them expected her to accept because the station had value. They expected her to accept because refusing would require another meeting, another appraisal, and another uncomfortable discussion about why the useful things had already been claimed. Chloe signed. The pen scratched across the paper. That small sound made Stephanie sit straighter. "I'll file my copy this afternoon," Chloe said. Ethan blinked. "The probate office handles recording." "I know. I want a certified copy when it's recorded. It'll be in the packet. I want my own." Ethan looked at their mother, but Stephanie was gathering her papers. The station was no longer her concern. She had gotten what she wanted, though the relief on her face carried a thin edge of shame. Chloe put the brass key in her pocket. Outside, the afternoon air smelled of warm pine and car exhaust. Stephanie stood beside her silver sedan, while Ethan loaded folders into his truck. "You don't have to go up there today," Stephanie said. "I want to see what I signed for. It's been empty since your grandfather died." "Has it?" Stephanie paused. "As far as I know." There it was, a smaller question beneath the larger one. Nobody had checked. They had priced the station from photographs and repair estimates, then passed it to Chloe because it was easier than understanding it. Her mother touched her arm. "I didn't want you left with nothing." Chloe looked at the hand on her sleeve. "Then why did you leave me with the bills?" Stephanie let go. "That's unfair." Ethan shut his truck door harder than necessary. She signed, "Mom, let it go." Chloe watched them drive away in separate vehicles. Her mother turned toward town. Ethan headed west. Neither followed her toward Banner Grade Road. The station sat beyond a bend where the pavement narrowed and the land dropped sharply on one side. Chloe's old hatchback climbed slowly. Dry grass brushed its underside when she turned onto the access road. The chain at the gate had been cut and looped back through itself. She stopped, got out, and tested it. The brass key didn't fit the newer padlock hanging open from one link. Somebody had entered after John's key stopped being the only way in. She drove through and closed the gate behind her. The station appeared above the brush, low and square against the ridge. One section of roof flashing had peeled upward. The antenna frame still stood, though a cable hung loose from its side and moved in the wind. The keeper's apartment shared a wall with the control room. Its porch sagged at one corner. $18,000, Chloe thought. It looked like less. She unlocked the front door after working the key twice. The wood had swollen around the frame. When the door opened, she smelled wet plaster, mouse droppings, and the dry metallic scent of old electrical equipment. Water had spread across part of the control room floor. The storm had broken a narrow window near the ceiling, and rain had run down the wall beneath it. A plastic bucket sat under the darkest stain. Chloe stopped. The bucket wasn't old. Its blue handle was clean, and the water inside held no dust. Someone had placed it there after the leak began. She looked around the room. The console cover was still in place. Cabinets lined the back wall. A service calendar hung beside them, open to a month from 4 years earlier. John's handwriting filled several squares before it suddenly stopped. The power switch was down. A handwritten tag hung beneath it. Check backup before main. Chloe knew the block letters. John made the letter K too large, as if it had crowded the letters beside it. She left the switch alone and opened the apartment. The kitchen ceiling had bowed above the sink. One cupboard door lay on the floor. A dead refrigerator stood open, and a line of ants crossed the counter. In the bedroom, part of the window frame had pulled away from the wall. Then she heard dripping. The sound came from behind the bathroom door. Water struck the empty tub at a slow, steady pace. Chloe turned the faucet, but the handle spun without catching. She found the shutoff panel outside, cleared dirt from the cover with a screwdriver, and closed the apartment line with both hands. The dripping slowed, then stopped. It wasn't much. The roof still leaked. The taxes were still due. The station had no reliable power, and someone had been entering without the family knowing. But the building was no longer wasting water. Chloe stood beside the apartment with dirt on her knees and the rusted valve wrench in her hand. Evening light moved across the control room windows. For 1 second, something behind the dusty glass caught the sun and flashed red. She went back inside, pulled the gray cover from the console, and found John's row of carrier lamps waiting underneath. Most of the lamp covers were cloudy with age. Chloe wiped one with her thumb and found dark red glass beneath the dust. Each lamp had a narrow label: Carrier 1, Carrier 2, Generator Ready, Line Fault, Remote Pole. She remembered some of the words and none of their order. John had let her sit in his chair while he worked, but he hadn't let her touch the center panel without him. He'd say, "There's a difference between being careful and being afraid. Careful people learn the sequence." The sequence wasn't posted anywhere Chloe could see. She opened the shallow drawer under the console. It held 2 pencils, a packet of dry alcohol wipes, 3 replacement fuses, and a pair of reading glasses with one bent arm. John's glasses. Chloe lifted them by the bridge. A faint print remained on one lens. She set them down exactly where she'd found them. The light outside was fading, and the station had no working overhead fixtures. She used her phone to inspect the breaker cabinet. Most of the labels had curled away from the metal. One breaker was marked Apartment. Another was marked Control. Both were off. A separate switch at the bottom had a yellow guard and John's handwritten warning beneath it. Back up first. Wait for ready. Chloe didn't touch that one either. She had repaired enough appliances to know that confidence could break expensive things faster than fear. She took photographs of the cabinet, the console, the hanging antenna cable, and the water stains. Then she covered the console again. In the apartment, she found a broom behind the kitchen door. The handle was smooth where John's hand had held it. She swept mouse droppings and plaster into a grocery bag, cleared the ants from the counter, and carried the broken cupboard door outside. It was nearly dark when she locked up. The swollen front door still wouldn't close properly. Chloe leaned her shoulder against it, turned the key, and felt the old lock catch. On the drive down, her phone rang through the car speakers. Stephanie said, "Are you still up there? I just left. You shouldn't be there alone after dark. I wasn't planning to sleep there." Her mother hesitated. "How bad is it?" "The apartment has water damage. The bathroom line was running. Running? Slowly. I shut it off. Thank goodness you went today." Chloe waited. Stephanie had a way of making Chloe's work sound like evidence that everything had gone properly. "Did you know someone's been going inside?" Chloe asked. "No. There was a clean bucket under the control room leak. The gate chain was cut. Maybe the appraiser did that. An appraiser doesn't usually bring a bucket." "Well, somebody from the county then." "Which county office?" "I don't know, Chloe." Her mother's voice had changed. It always changed when a practical question required her to admit she hadn't checked. "Do you have Grandpa's station records?" Chloe asked. All his documents went through Ethan. "Ethan says the house was cleared." It was. "Where did the contents go?" "Some were donated, some were sold. We each took personal things." "Did you save anything from the station?" "I wouldn't know what came from the station." Chloe slowed for a sharp bend. Headlights moved across tree trunks and low brush. "What did you take?" she asked. "A few photographs. Your grandmother's dishes, Dad's watch." Chloe hadn't known Stephanie had John's watch. She pictured the broad steel band and the scratched black face. He used to set its alarm before running the weekly equipment check. "Did you find his key ring?" Chloe asked. "I don't remember." "You took his watch, but you don't remember his keys. That's not fair." There was that sentence again. In Stephanie's mind, unfairness was often the moment someone refused to help her keep a comfortable version of events. "I need the records," Chloe said, "and any keys." "I'll ask Ethan. I already asked him. Then let me speak to him." Chloe knew what would happen. Stephanie would call Ethan. Ethan would say he'd looked. Stephanie would call Chloe again and ask why she was making this so difficult. Before Chloe could answer, her mother said, "Are you coming for dinner? Tonight?" "We talked about Wednesday." They had. Chloe had forgotten. "I'm dirty. You can wash up here. I made the chicken you like." Chloe looked at the clock on the dashboard. It was after 7. Her rented room was 15 minutes in the other direction. Stephanie's house was closer, and Chloe's stomach had begun to ache from the coffee she'd had instead of lunch. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, she said. Stephanie's house stood on a quiet street with matching mailboxes and trimmed rosemary bushes. It was the house Chloe and Ethan had grown up in, though Stephanie had changed nearly every room since then. The walls were pale gray now. Family photographs were arranged in identical white frames. Chloe's high school graduation picture was on the stairway. Ethan's college graduation picture stood on the living room mantel beside a photograph of John. Chloe had attended community college for 3 semesters before leaving to work full-time. She always noticed the difference in placement, then felt petty for noticing. Stephanie met her in the laundry room with an old towel. "Take your shoes off. I just had the floors done." Chloe removed her boots and wiped dust from her arms at the utility sink. When she entered the kitchen, Ethan was already eating. "I thought you went home," she said. "Mom invited me." Stephanie set another plate on the table. "There's plenty." Ethan glanced at the dirt beneath Chloe's fingernails. "So, how's the liability?" Chloe sat across from him. "Wet. Exactly as advertised. The control equipment is still there. I told you it was. You said old radio equipment. You didn't say the console was intact. Is there a difference?" "Yes." Ethan cut a piece of chicken. "Can you sell it?" "I don't know what it is yet. It's obsolete." That's what the report said. The report covered the building. There wasn't an equipment inventory. Stephanie brought the vegetables to the table. "Can we eat one meal without talking about the estate?" Chloe looked at her. "This is the first meal we've had since I signed, and we spent all morning on it." "You spent all morning waiting for me to sign." Ethan put his fork down. "What do you want us to say?" "I want the station records. I don't have them." "You cleared the house." "Yes, and there were boxes everywhere. Grandpa kept receipts from 1990. I didn't examine every piece of paper." "What did you do with them?" "I hired a clean-out crew." Chloe stopped cutting her food. "You threw them away?" "I sorted the important documents." "How did you know what was important?" "Bank records, taxes, property papers, things connected to the estate." The station was connected to the estate. It was a closed relay site full of broken equipment. "You didn't go there." I had an appraisal. You keep saying that, as if the appraiser turned on the console. The power was disconnected. Part of it was disconnected. Stephanie pressed her fingertips against her forehead. Please. Both of them went quiet. Chloe ate because she was hungry, and because leaving would give Ethan the satisfaction of calling her emotional. That was another family habit. Ethan could raise his voice and still be practical. Chloe could ask the same question twice and become difficult. Stephanie asked about work. Chloe told her the hardware store had changed suppliers for electrical fittings. Ethan talked about a possible new tenant for his building, as though the transfer were already complete. Halfway through dinner, the refrigerator began making a soft knocking sound. Stephanie looked at Chloe. Chloe kept eating. The sound came again. It started yesterday, Stephanie said. Ethan didn't turn around. Have you called anyone? Chloe asked. I thought you might listen to it. Right now, it may be nothing. Chloe looked at the chicken on her plate, then at her mother. Stephanie wasn't trying to insult her. That almost made it worse. She expected Chloe to get up because Chloe always got up. When the washing machine leaked, Chloe replaced the hose. When the porch light failed, Chloe changed the fixture. When Ethan needed shelving installed in his first apartment, Chloe spent a Saturday doing it while he took business calls. Each favor had seemed small. Together, they had taught the family that Chloe's place was near the toolbox, useful enough to call, but not important enough to consult. She had helped teach them that. Chloe put down her fork and walked to the refrigerator. The sound came from the back panel. She pulled the unit away from the wall and found the water line tapping against the compressor housing. A plastic clip had broken. She unplugged the refrigerator, moved the line, and secured it with a padded clamp from the drawer, where Stephanie kept spare hardware Chloe had left on previous visits. When she plugged the refrigerator back in, the knocking stopped. Stephanie smiled. I knew you'd find it. Chloe washed her hands and returned to the table. Her food had cooled. Ethan said, You could charge for house calls. I do. Not Mom. No, not Mom. Stephanie began clearing plates before anyone had finished. You know I appreciate you. Chloe looked at the refrigerator. Do you? Her mother stopped with a plate in each hand. Chloe wanted Stephanie to say something plain. She wanted her to say that Chloe had done more for John in his final years than Ethan had. She wanted her to admit that giving Chloe the station wasn't generosity. Most of all, she wanted a place at that table that didn't depend on what she could repair. Instead, Stephanie said, I made your favorite dinner. Chloe nodded once. Thank you. That was the ordinary exchange. Stephanie offered food. Chloe offered labor. Neither asked for what she actually wanted, because the answer might expose how little was available. After dinner, Ethan took his folder from the counter. I may have one box left, he said. Chloe turned toward him. From Grandpa's garage. I put it in my storage unit because the cleanout crew wouldn't take batteries or chemicals. There could be station stuff in it. Can we look? Not tonight. When? I have work. So do I. I'll check this weekend. Chloe studied his face. He wasn't lying about the box. He was already annoyed that he'd mentioned it. Give me the storage key, she said. I'll check it. No. Why? Because there are other things in the unit. Your things? Yes. From Grandpa's house. Some. Stephanie stepped between them with a stack of dishes. Ethan, just bring her the box. I said I would. This weekend, Chloe said. Yes. What day? He exhaled through his nose. Saturday. Chloe knew she would have accepted that answer a day earlier. She would have waited, then thanked him when he arrived late with half the contents missing. Keeping the peace had always meant letting Ethan control the time. I'll meet you at the unit tomorrow at 6, she said. I'm not rearranging my day. Then leave the box with Mom. It may not have anything useful. That's my decision now. Ethan looked at Stephanie, but she kept rinsing plates. 6:15, he said. I won't wait. Chloe picked up her boots in the laundry room. Before she left, Stephanie followed her. You're taking this very personally. It is personal. It's property. It was Grandpa's property. Now it's mine. Her mother lowered her voice. Don't let that place drain everything you've saved. For a moment, the warning sounded sincere. Stephanie did worry about her. She simply preferred forms of worry that required Chloe to accept Stephanie's judgment. I'm going to inspect it before I decide what it can drain, Chloe said. At her rented room, Chloe showered and changed into clean clothes. The room had one window facing the back wall of the hardware store. Her bed touched one wall, and the small table touched the other. The landlord allowed a hot plate but no permanent shelves. Every 6 months, Chloe's rent increased by an amount small enough to seem reasonable and large enough to keep her savings from growing. She spread the station photographs across the table. In the picture of the breaker cabinet, a white service label showed beneath the yellow backup switch. Chloe enlarged the image on her phone. The printing was worn, but she could read a name written at the bottom, Maria Sanchez. A telephone number followed it. Chloe called before she could decide it was too late. A woman answered on the fourth ring. Yes? My name is Chloe Collins. I'm John Collins' granddaughter. The line went quiet. Then Maria said, You have his station. It wasn't a question. I got the deed today. Another pause followed, softer this time. I wondered who would go up there, Maria said. Have you been inside? Last month. I put a bucket under the west window. Chloe sat down. You cut the gate chain? No, that was already cut. I brought my old service key. Why did you go? To see if the roof had taken more damage. Your grandfather asked me to look in on the place if the family ever stopped. Stopped what? Paying attention. Chloe looked at John's warning in the photograph. Do you know the startup sequence? She asked. I know the one John used. Would you show me? Maria didn't answer at once. She had her own reasons to distrust a family that had left John's work untouched for 4 years. Chloe could hear a television playing quietly in the background. Tomorrow morning, Maria said at last. 8 o'clock. Bring work gloves, and don't touch that yellow switch before I get there. I won't. Good. John said you listened when it mattered. The call ended. Chloe sat beside the narrow table with the phone still in her hand. All those years, she had believed being useful was the closest thing she had to being trusted. Now, a woman she had never met had given her both a warning and a chance. Chloe set an alarm, packed her tools, and placed the brass station key on top of her work gloves. At 7 the next morning, she bought 2 coffees and a bag of plain rolls from the bakery near work. She also bought a new respirator, insulated gloves, a voltage tester, and a pack of glass fuses. Her employee discount took a little off the total. Maria's faded green pickup was waiting outside the gate when Chloe arrived. A wooden tool chest sat behind the cab, secured with 2 red straps. Maria climbed out and looked at the coffee in Chloe's hand. Black? Unless you want milk, black is right. She accepted the cup, then looked past Chloe toward the station. Her gray hair was tied at the back of her neck. She wore work pants, a long-sleeved shirt, and boots that had been resoled more than once. You closed the gate, she said. I did. Good. John always closed it, even if he was staying 10 minutes. Maria took a ring of keys from her pocket. 6 different keys hung from it, each marked with colored tape. The one with red tape matched Chloe's brass key. You still had those? Chloe asked. They're mine. The county issued them when I worked here. I thought Grandpa owned the station. He owned the land and building. Different people owned different pieces of equipment over the years. Most of it was signed over or abandoned in place. That's one reason nobody wanted to sort it out. Maria unlocked the newer padlock and removed it from the chain. Is this yours? Chloe asked. It is now. The old lock disappeared, and I didn't want people wandering in. You could have told the family. I called the number on the tax notice posted at the gate. A man answered and told me the property was being handled. Ethan. He didn't give his name. He usually does when he thinks it helps. Maria gave Chloe a brief sideways look. She didn't ask for the rest. They carried the tools into the control room. Morning light reached the console, and the gray cover lay exactly where Chloe had left it. Maria noticed. You put it back. There's broken glass in the room, and dust. Dust gets inside contacts before people notice. She set down her tool chest, opened the latches, and arranged a meter, insulated leads, contact cleaner, and a flashlight on the console. Everything had a place. Chloe understood why John had trusted her before Maria said another word. Maria walked to the breaker cabinet and read the labels one by one. She didn't touch them. Then she opened the lower service door. A narrow compartment ran beneath the wall cabinet. Inside were 6 backup batteries mounted on a steel rack. 2 had swollen cases. White crust surrounded several terminals. Chloe crouched beside her. That's bad. It's not good. When were they replaced? These 4 were installed before John died. Those 2 are older, Maria pointed with the flashlight. The damaged ones have to come out. No sparks, no shortcuts. Chloe put on the respirator and gloves. They opened the control room doors for ventilation, then disconnected the failed batteries one terminal at a time. The steel hold-down bar had rusted around one bolt. Chloe sprayed it, waited, and used a socket with a longer handle. Maria watched the bolt turn. John said, "You had patience?" she said. He said I was stubborn. He meant both. The first battery was heavier than Chloe expected. They lifted it together, carried it outside, and set it in a plastic tray. The second left a damp mark on the rack. "Where do these go?" Chloe asked. "Hazardous waste collection. I'll take them this afternoon. I can do it. I'm already going into town." Maria had promised a neighbor she would repair a receiver that afternoon, and she wanted the batteries gone before the temperature rose. She hadn't come to spend the whole day telling stories about John. She had a life waiting beyond the gate. Chloe rinsed the affected tray with a neutralizing solution from Maria's chest. When the fizzing stopped, they cleaned the terminals on the 4 remaining batteries and checked each one. "Low," Maria said, studying the meter. "But not dead. Can they run the console?" "Some of it." "What happens if we turn on the main power?" "We don't." Maria pointed toward the loose antenna cable outside. "We don't know where that feed is touching. We don't know what water reached behind the wall. We start with the isolated backup circuit and ask the equipment what it can still do." The words sounded enough like John that Chloe looked at her. Maria saw it. He didn't invent that. He made it sound like he did. He did that often. For the first time since the restaurant meeting, Chloe laughed without forcing it. They checked the cabinet for heat damage. Chloe found a loose neutral connection behind a ceramic terminal block. The screw turned a quarter rotation before it held. "Could that have caused the shutdown?" she asked. "Part of it, not the whole thing." Maria made Chloe test it again. The reading settled. "There," Maria said. "That's your repair, not mine." It was a small thing, a loose screw in a building full of damage. Still, the backup circuit now showed a clean connection. Chloe wrote the time and reading on a pad beside the console. Maria noticed that too. "You keep records at the hardware store? Only when something comes back broken. Everything comes back broken eventually." They ate the rolls on the apartment porch while the control room aired out. Maria looked at the sagging roof edge and said the flashing could be secured before the next rain if the wood beneath it was sound. "Did Grandpa ask you to check the station before he died?" Chloe asked. "Not exactly. You said he asked you to look in if the family stopped paying attention. That was earlier? How much earlier?" Maria brushed crumbs from her knee. "Your grandfather knew your mother thought this place had been shut down. He didn't correct her." "Why not?" I asked him. "He said Stephanie didn't want another station conversation." That sounded like Stephanie. When John talked about radio systems, she often found a reason to leave the room. Chloe had done the same sometimes, especially when she was tired. "Did Ethan know Grandpa was coming here?" "I doubt it. Did you?" "Some weeks." Chloe waited. Maria looked out toward the road. "After I retired, John called when he needed a second pair of hands. A battery change, a line test. Once, a snake under the generator housing." "What was he maintaining? The relay cabinet, the pole receiver, the carrier line when it behaved badly? I thought newer systems replaced all of that. So did most people. But not Grandpa." "No? Why?" Maria turned the coffee cup between both hands. "He said a quiet system wasn't necessarily an unused system. That doesn't answer anything." "I know. It didn't answer me either. How often did he come?" "Once a week near the end, usually Thursday mornings." Chloe pictured John's watch alarm. She remembered calling him on Thursdays and getting no answer, then hearing later that he'd been out running errands. Stephanie had complained about it. She said he was becoming secretive. Did he keep coming in the year he died? Yes. How close to the end? Maria's eyes moved toward the control room door. The week before, he went into the hospital. Chloe set her cup down. John had been moving slowly by then. He needed both hands to stand from a low chair, and Stephanie had taken his truck keys after he backed into a fence post. Chloe assumed that had ended his trips to the ridge. "How did he get here?" "I drove him." The answer hurt in a clean, surprising way. Chloe had taken him to medical appointments, the grocery store, and the barber. She had believed she knew where he needed to go. John had asked someone else for the one ride that mattered to him. Why didn't he ask me? Maria didn't soften the truth. "Maybe he thought you'd tell your mother." Chloe looked down at her hands. She would have. Not because Stephanie controlled her, Chloe told herself. Then she remembered how often she had carried information from one person to another just to keep the family calm. She had told Stephanie when John skipped medicine. She had told Ethan when John talked about selling his car. She had called those things helpful. John might have called them unsafe. Maria stood. We should test the backup before it gets warmer. Inside, she removed the gray cover and pointed to the yellow guarded switch. The 4 batteries should bring up the low voltage side. They won't carry the full transmitter. If the ready lamp doesn't settle, we stop. What's the sequence? Confirm the main is off. Chloe checked it aloud. Confirm antenna transmit is isolated. The feed switch was locked in the open position. Chloe tested both sides, then backup. Chloe lifted the yellow guard and moved the switch. Nothing happened. She felt foolish for expecting sound. The room remained still. Then a faint click came from inside the console. A cooling fan turned once, stopped, and turned again. The green backup lamp flickered. Wait, Maria said. Chloe watched it fade, return, and finally hold. Ready, she said. Now, control power. Chloe moved the smaller switch Maria indicated. The console gave a low hum. 2-meter needles rose from their stops. Most of the carrier lamps remained dark. One amber light came on beneath the word fault. Maria read the meter. Battery voltage is dropping. We have a few minutes. What can we check? The local diagnostic. Maria showed her a 3-position selector and a square command button. The selector resisted at first. Chloe worked it gently until it moved to local. Press once, Maria said. Don't hold it. Chloe pressed. A relay clicked behind the panel. 3 lamps flashed together and went dark. The meter needle rose, trembled, and fell halfway. Then the lamp marked carrier 2 came on. It wasn't bright. The red glass held a dull, steady glow. Chloe looked at Maria. Is that supposed to happen? Not with the transmitter isolated. Then what's answering? Maria reached across her and turned the diagnostic off. The red light faded slowly. Again, she said. They waited for the battery reading to recover. Chloe repeated the sequence. 1 press, 1 internal click, 3 brief flashes. Carrier 2 returned. This time Maria watched a smaller needle on the polling panel. It moved just enough to clear its resting mark. That circuit heard the command, Maria said. From inside the console, it answered through the carrier path. The cable outside isn't connected, not the antenna feed. There's another line. Where? Maria opened the console's lower door. Bundles of cloth-wrapped wire disappeared through a steel sleeve in the floor. 1 newer gray cable ran beside them. Maria touched the label tied around it. Legacy. Relay. Do not remove. John's block letters again. Chloe crouched beside her. Where does it go? I don't know. This cable wasn't here when I retired. You saw it later? I saw the label. John told me to leave it alone. And you did. He was still responsible for the station. Now I am. Maria sat back on her heels. Then your first responsibility is not to follow a live cable until you know what's on the other end. Chloe looked at the red lamp. It had answered twice. The appraisal called the equipment obsolete. Her family had treated the room like abandoned storage. Yet someone had installed a newer carrier line, and John had maintained the station until the week before he entered the hospital. Can we trace it safely? Yes, but not on those batteries. Not with the roof open and the antenna feed loose. What do we need? Replacement batteries. A proper ground check. We need to inspect the cable trench outside. And you need to find out who receives signals from this equipment before you send another one. How? Maria pointed to the metal identification plate beside the polling panel. Most of the writing had worn away, but a county asset number remained stamped into the surface. Start there. The backup warning lamp blinked. Maria shut down the control side, waited, then lowered the yellow switch. The hum faded. The station was silent again, but Chloe no longer believed it was empty. She photographed the asset number and called the county's general service line from the porch. After 2 transfers, a receptionist took the number and asked for Chloe's name, address, and connection to the property. I'm the owner, Chloe said. The words felt unfamiliar, but they were true. The receptionist typed for several seconds. That number belongs to emergency communications, she said. I'll send your message to the manager. Can you tell me if the equipment is active? I can't see that from here. When should I expect a call? He's in the field today, probably this afternoon. Chloe thanked her and ended the call. Maria had already begun loading the failed batteries into her truck. Chloe helped secure the straps, then returned to the control room doorway. She had gone to the station that morning to learn whether the old console could be started safely. Now she knew one part of it could still answer. She also knew the answer had gone somewhere John never explained. At 6:15, Ethan would open the storage unit. Before then, Chloe had a roof edge to secure, a cable trench to uncover, and a county manager who now knew the abandoned station had spoken. Chloe started with the roof because clouds were building over the ridge. Maria refused to let her climb until they checked the ladder feet, the porch boards, and the wind. The loose flashing had lifted above the control room where rain could reach the same wall as the breaker cabinet. Chloe carried up roofing screws, sealant, and a piece of sheet metal cut at the hardware store. The wood beneath the flashing was damp but firm. She dried it, worked the metal flat, and fastened it in short sections. Maria held the ladder and called up whenever the wind changed. "You always this cautious?" Chloe asked. "Only when someone might fall on me." Chloe finished the last screw and pressed sealant around the edge. The repair wasn't pretty, but the metal no longer moved. From the roof, she could see the access road, the dry slope below it, and a white county utility vehicle turning through the gate. A man stepped out and looked up. "Chloe Collins? That's me. I'm Joshua Pearson. Take your time coming down." He stayed clear of the ladder while she descended. He wore a county work shirt with reflective strips across the shoulders. A radio rested on his belt, and dust covered the lower half of his boots. Maria recognized him first. "You took long enough," she said. Joshua smiled. "Good to see you too." "You know each other?" Chloe asked. "Everyone who worked this ridge knew Maria, and some of them still owe me tools," Maria said. Joshua opened the back of his vehicle and took out a small equipment case. He looked toward the station, but his attention stopped on the antenna frame. "Did you run a local diagnostic this morning?" "Twice," Chloe said. "What answered?" "Carrier 2. The transmitter feed was isolated." Joshua's expression changed. Not excitement exactly. It was the look of a man who had expected to find a loose wire and had just heard a locked door move. "Show me the panel." Inside, Chloe walked him through each step. She didn't turn anything on. She showed him the battery readings, the swollen units they had removed, the loose connection she had tightened, and the newer gray cable beneath the console. Joshua crouched to read John's label. "When was this installed?" Chloe asked. "I don't know." "You worked with my grandfather." "I did. We established a county relay arrangement here years ago. The line was updated more than once, but I wasn't present for every change." "What kind of arrangement?" Joshua stood and looked at Maria. "She owns it," Maria said. "I know. I checked the parcel record before I drove up." "The deed was signed yesterday," Chloe said. "The probate transfer posted this morning. County records move faster when property taxes are overdue." She couldn't tell whether that was a joke. Joshua placed his equipment case on the console but left it closed. The county used this site as a relay point for emergency radio traffic. It covers part of the grade where the newer towers don't reach cleanly. "I thought the station was obsolete. Most of the original system is. The location isn't." He took a folded map from the case and opened it on the console. A shaded section followed the road and spread into the back country east of Julian. "This is our weak area," he said. "During normal traffic, it's inconvenient. During a wildfire, it can separate crews from dispatch for several minutes." Chloe looked at the shape on the map. It covered more land than she expected. "Is the station carrying those calls now?" "No. We route around the gap." "Then what answered this morning?" "That's what I came to find out." Maria crossed her arms. "You have monitoring records. I have records of an unplanned signal on a legacy channel. That doesn't tell me whether the complete relay is operational." "You knew something was here," Chloe said. "I knew equipment was registered here." John handled the weekly maintenance response. After he died, the system stopped appearing on our normal staff list. Why didn't the county come check? The agreement was tied to the parcel and the equipment. The estate never requested renewal, and nobody gave us access. Did you ask? Joshua took a breath. I sent notices to the estate address. Chloe thought of the boxes Ethan had sorted. Important documents, bank records, taxes, property papers. What did the notices say? That the county needed confirmation from the lawful owner before entering the site. And nobody answered, no. Maria looked at Chloe. Neither needed to say Ethan's name. Joshua continued. We couldn't treat the equipment as county property. John owned the station. The county's rights were limited. What rights? Access for inspection and maintenance, but only while the operating agreement remained in effect. Did it remain in effect? That depends on whether the original relay stayed operational. Chloe looked at the dark carrier lamp. You saw the response this morning, she said. I saw a monitoring alert. That proves a signal reached one receiver. It doesn't prove the relay has been continuously operational, and it doesn't prove this is still the registered equipment. The asset number matches. It gives us a reason to inspect, not a conclusion. His care with the words irritated her, though she understood it. Joshua wasn't going to promise anything he couldn't put in a county file. What would prove it, she asked. The telemetry controller should identify the site when it receives a live county poll. If it's the original controller and the records are intact, it may also show its check-in history. May? John modified parts of the maintenance routine. I don't know what he preserved. Maria tapped the console cover. He preserved something. This circuit didn't answer itself. Joshua nodded. I agree. I just can't certify what it is today. Chloe pointed to the map. If the relay works, what happens? The county can consider renewing the operating agreement with the parcel owner. Consider? I manage the system. I don't sign leases alone. How much is the agreement worth? Joshua paused, and Chloe knew the answer wasn't small. The amount currently set aside is $54,000 a year. The room became very quiet. Chloe thought of the appraisal on the restaurant table. $18,000 for the land, building, equipment, unpaid taxes, and every leak in the apartment. Maria was the first to move. She closed the control room door against a gust of wind. That would cover repairs, Chloe said. It would cover operating obligations, Joshua replied. Power, maintenance, site access, brush clearance, inspections. What remains is the owner's income. Would it pay before the repairs? No. The station has to qualify first. What does qualify mean? The original relay must answer a live poll. The site identifier must match. The controller can't show a break in the required maintenance responses. Chloe looked at the newer gray cable. What if there was a break after Grandpa died? Then the legacy agreement can't be renewed under its original terms. Could we start a new one? Not from this year's funding. A new site agreement requires a different review, construction standards, and budget request. That could take years. There was no threat in his voice. He was telling her where the edge was. How long do I have? She asked. Our wildfire communications budget closes in 30 days. If I can't establish eligibility by then, the money moves to a temporary mobile relay plan. Can that cover this area? Not as well. Maria looked at the battery rack. She needs 6 new units before you can poll. At minimum, Joshua said. The antenna feed has to be repaired. The ground system has to test safely. The backup must remain stable during the response. What will the county repair? Chloe asked. Nothing until there's an agreement. I can conduct the poll and provide the receiving equipment. I can't spend county money restoring private property before eligibility is established. The shape of the offer became clear. The station might support a yearly payment larger than Chloe's wages, but only if she first spent money proving it deserved the payment. If she failed, she would still own the roof, taxes, batteries, brush, and broken apartment. Can you tell whether Grandpa kept it operational from your records? She asked. Not completely. He used an automatic maintenance response. Our current system shows the channel activity, but the older detailed records stayed with the site controller. So the answer is in this room, if the controller survived. Joshua took a card from his pocket and wrote a direct number on the back. Call me before you power the transmitter. Don't run another diagnostic if the antenna feed is connected. I need to know what the system sends and where it sends it. Chloe accepted the card. Can you come back this week? I can return when the backup circuit is stable. I won't use the live poll as a test of unfinished repairs. You get 1 clean attempt before questions start. What questions? If the controller responds incorrectly, our system flags the site identity. Then I have to treat it as unverified equipment until an independent engineer examines it. That sounds expensive. It can be. Maria said, John built in a local maintenance routine. Then use it. Just don't imitate the county poll. Joshua packed the map. At the door, he stopped beside the service calendar. I saw John here 2 months before he died, he said. He told me the station would answer for whoever took responsibility. Did he say who that would be? No. Did you ask? I thought he meant himself. Joshua carried his case to the vehicle. Before leaving, he gave Chloe a county contact form, granting her permission to request a supervised poll once the site was ready. It wasn't a lease or a promise. It was one useful piece of access she hadn't possessed that morning. After he drove away, Chloe sat on the porch step and opened her banking app. The taxes would take nearly half her savings. 6 proper batteries, cable hardware, safety inspection tools, roofing materials, and waste fees would consume most of what remained. The apartment would still have no safe ceiling and no reliable main power. Maria sat beside her. "You don't have to decide today," she said. "The county does. The county always has a deadline. It helps them make their problem feel like yours. It is my problem if I want the agreement. Do you?" Chloe looked through the open control room door. "I want to know what Grandpa kept alive. That answer could cost you everything you saved." "I know." "No, you know the total on a screen. That's different." Maria had lost money on equipment before. Chloe could hear it in her voice. She wasn't trying to discourage her. She was making sure Chloe didn't confuse belief in John with proof that he had protected her. At 6:10, Chloe pulled up outside Ethan's storage unit. He arrived at 6:16 and unlocked the metal door without apologizing. Boxes filled the front half, a dining chair, a rolled rug, John's lawn tools, and 2 lamps stood along one wall. "You said 1 box," Chloe said. Ethan pointed to a stained plastic bin near the back. "That one." The lid held a strip of red tape. Chloe moved a lamp aside and opened it. Inside were old work gloves, wire brushes, sealed fuses, a handheld meter, and a canvas tool roll. A coiled test lead lay at the bottom, beside a metal key marked Control Lower Access. She held it up. Ethan looked at the label. "Useful?" "Yes." "How useful?" "It opens part of the console." He watched her place the key in her pocket. "You've got someone helping you up there?" "Maria Sanchez." "Who's that?" "She worked with Grandpa." "And the county vehicle?" Chloe looked at him. "I drove past around lunch," he said. "What did they want?" The question was casual, but Ethan had stopped moving. "They received a signal from the station. I thought it didn't work. So did I." "What kind of signal?" "I don't know yet." He looked into the bin, seeing the old tools differently now. If county equipment is on that property, it may affect the appraisal. The county equipment isn't the land. It affects the estate value. The estate gave me the station, based on the information we had. Chloe closed the bin. "You had 4 years to get better information." Ethan's face tightened. "Don't do anything until I talk to the probate office. You don't control the property. We all signed based on an $18,000 valuation. You accepted a rented building. Mom accepted the savings. I accepted the station. That was before it sent a signal." Chloe lifted the bin with both hands. It was heavier than it looked. Ethan stepped aside, but only after she met his eyes. "You wanted it off the estate," she said. "It is." She carried John's tools to her car. Behind her, Ethan remained inside the storage unit, already reaching for his phone. Chloe reached home before Stephanie called. "Ethan says you wouldn't tell him what the county wanted. He asked me in a storage unit while I was carrying a box." "What did they want?" "To inspect the equipment." "Why?" "They received a signal." Stephanie was quiet for several seconds. Chloe could hear a drawer closing in the background. "I thought the station had no power. So did the appraiser." "Is the county claiming something on the property?" "No." "Then why send someone?" "To find out what answered." "That doesn't make sense." "It does if the equipment wasn't abandoned." Her mother lowered her voice. "Chloe, did you know about this yesterday?" "No." "Did Maria?" "No." "Did Dad?" "He maintained it until the week before he went into the hospital." Stephanie said nothing. Chloe waited for surprise, hurt, or even a question about how he had managed the drive. Instead, her mother asked, "Does that change the value?" "I don't know what the station can do yet. That's not what I asked. It's the only answer I have." Stephanie breathed out slowly. "Ethan thinks the appraisal may have been incomplete. Ethan thought the appraisal settled everything when the mistake benefited him. You're assuming there was a mistake. He is too. I don't want this to become a fight. It became a fight when he told me not to do anything on my own property. Technically, the transfer is still very recent. Technically, it's recorded." Her mother hadn't expected Chloe to check. The silence confirmed it. "Can we come see it tomorrow?" Stephanie asked. "Who's we?" Ethan and me. No. Why not? Because I'm working, and the control room isn't safe for visitors. I'm not a visitor. You don't own it? The words landed harder than Chloe intended. She heard Stephanie move the phone away, then bring it back. I'm your mother, I know. I'm trying to protect everyone. Then let me find out what I own. Stephanie ended the call soon after that. Chloe slept badly. Every time she woke, she thought about the county deadline or the money in her savings account. By morning, uncertainty felt more expensive than the batteries. She purchased 6 matching units through the hardware store. Her manager allowed her to use the wholesale price, but the total still made her hold the receipt longer than necessary. She also bought cable clamps, corrosion cleaner, ground wire, and a lock for the control room door. The station gate stood open when she arrived. Stephanie's sedan was parked beside the apartment. Ethan's truck blocked part of the equipment path. Chloe got out and looked at them through the windshield. Her mother held a paper grocery bag. Ethan had a measuring tape clipped to his belt, though he had never measured anything at the station before. You said no, Chloe said. Stephanie lifted the bag. I brought breakfast. That doesn't change the answer. We only want to look around, Ethan said. You looked around enough to value it. His eyes moved toward the batteries in Chloe's car. What are those for? The backup circuit. How much did they cost? Chloe walked to the gate and swung it closed behind her car. Move your truck off the equipment path. It's not blocking anything. It's blocking me. He stared at her, then moved it. Stephanie followed Chloe to the porch. We don't need to talk like this. You came after I told you not to. I wanted to see why Dad kept coming. That's not why Ethan brought a measuring tape. Ethan heard her. I want an accurate idea of what's here. For whom? For the family. Chloe unlocked the front door but stood in the opening. The floor near the west wall is wet. The electrical system isn't cleared. You can see the apartment. You don't enter the control room unless I'm with you. Ethan laughed once. You're serious. Yes. Stephanie looked at the lock in Chloe's hand. We used to bring you here. Grandpa brought me here. I came too. Twice that I remember. Her mother turned toward the apartment. The grocery bag contained coffee, fruit, and breakfast sandwiches. Stephanie set everything on the kitchen counter, then noticed the bowed ceiling and stopped. Oh, she said. The damage was easier to dismiss in an appraisal photograph. Standing beneath it, she could see plaster dust on the sink and the dark line where water had traveled behind the paint. Have you checked for mold? She asked. Not yet. This could make you sick. I have a respirator. That isn't a home, not today. Stephanie looked toward the bedroom. Something in Chloe's answer frightened her more than the damage. You're not planning to live here? I'm planning to stop paying rent for one room behind a store. Since when? Since my rent went up again. You never told me. You never asked. I ask about work. That isn't the same thing. Stephanie's eyes settled on a patch of clean counter where Chloe had scrubbed away the ants. She understood then that Chloe hadn't accepted the station only to prove a point. She meant to make use of it, which meant taking it back would cost her something real. Ethan called from outside. There's a county tag on the antenna frame. Chloe went to him. Don't touch the cable. I'm reading a tag. The feed may have water inside. He stepped back, though he made it look voluntary. What did the county offer? He asked. An inspection. They don't drive up here for no reason. The ridge has a radio gap. And this fixes it? It might. Ethan looked at the station with new attention. The damage flashing was now flat. The control room doors closed cleanly. 6 new batteries waited in Chloe's car. Each repair weakened the story he had told himself, that the property was useless and Chloe foolish for taking it. If this has county use, we need a new appraisal, he said. No, you might want one. The estate relied on bad information. The estate relied on the information you chose. Stephanie came outside. What if we pause and have someone look at the whole property? I'm already looking at it, Chloe said. I mean a professional valuation. And then what? If there's value, we handle it fairly. Ethan spoke before Stephanie could soften the proposal. You transfer the deed back. We pay the taxes and repair costs from the estate funds. Then we either sell the site or negotiate with the county. Who controls the negotiation? All 3 of us. The way all 3 of us controlled the division, Stephanie said. You'd receive your share. I have my share. Chloe, you know what I mean? She did. Stephanie meant Chloe would receive permission to keep part of something once Ethan had decided what to do with it. No, Chloe said. Ethan folded his arms. You haven't even heard numbers. You don't have numbers. We can get them. Not through my gate. His face reddened. You can't shut the family out because you found one blinking light. I can shut anyone out who arrives after I said no. Stephanie picked up her purse. We should leave. Ethan didn't move. Chloe waited. Finally, he followed Stephanie to the vehicles. Before he got into his truck, he said, I'm going to ask how the property was valued. That's your choice. You should stop spending money until this is settled. It is settled. He drove out first. Stephanie remained beside her sedan. I really did think you'd want the station, she said. You thought I'd accept it. Isn't that the same thing? No. Stephanie looked as if she might argue, then closed her door. Maria arrived 10 minutes later and saw the tire marks near the porch. They came early, she said. How do you know? People who bring pressure like to arrive before the work starts. Together, they carried the new batteries inside. Chloe photographed the old rack, cleaned it again, and marked every cable before removal. Maria checked her work without taking over. The replacement units fit tightly. Chloe installed the hold-down bar and tightened the terminals in sequence. When she finished, Maria tested each connection. Good, she said. One word, but it meant more to Chloe than her mother's breakfast. They used the key from John's bin on the lower console panel. It turned halfway and stopped. Lift the door while you turn, Maria said. Chloe raised the metal edge. The lock released. Behind the door sat a compact gray controller mounted on rails. An equipment seal crossed two screws on its face. The seal bore the same county asset number as the plate above. Neither woman touched it. That's useful, Maria said. Because the numbers match? Because nobody opened the controller after the seal was applied. Can Joshua authenticate it? He'll need someone independent. He worked on the agreement. Chloe photographed the seal from several angles. A row of maintenance buttons ran beneath the controller. Their labels had faded, but small scratches marked 3 positions. Maria remembered the first 2 steps of John's weekly check. Select local maintenance. Confirm backup ready. Send carrier test. What came after? Chloe asked. He watched the line meter, then moved something here. Maria pointed without touching. I can't remember whether it was pole hold or identity test. Would he have written it down? Not where a visitor could run it. Chloe searched the tool bin again. The canvas roll held narrow drivers, a fuse puller, and a flat metal strip with notches cut along one edge. It looked handmade. Maria took it and turned it over. I remember this. What is it? John used it to reach a recessed switch behind the carrier panel. He called it his extra finger. They removed the panel's outer grill. A small opening appeared near the line meter, too narrow for a normal screwdriver. Chloe inserted the metal strip. It settled into a notch. Don't move it yet, Maria said. They brought up backup power and waited for the ready lamp. With 6 batteries, the green light held without flickering. The control meters rose more quickly. Chloe ran the local diagnostic. Carrier 2 answered. Now the maintenance sequence, Maria said. Chloe selected local maintenance, confirmed the backup reading, and sent the carrier test. The red lamp steadied. She pressed the recessed switch with John's tool. A second lamp came on beneath the controller. Identity. Wait. The console fans sped up. For 3 seconds, the line meter climbed, then it dropped to 0. The green ready lamp went dark. A breaker inside the lower cabinet snapped open, and the room fell silent. Chloe removed her hand. What did I do? The sequence worked, Maria said. The backup didn't hold. They checked the new batteries. All 6 remained charged. The failure came from a smaller stabilizing circuit between the batteries and controller. Its casing felt warmer than it should. Maria pointed to a discolored connection behind it. There's your wider problem. Can we repair it? Probably. Today? Not without removing the stabilizer and testing it on a bench. Chloe looked at the controller seal. They had reached the identity request. The station had tried to answer and stopped before it could say who it was. Her phone rang. Joshua's name showed on the screen. I saw another carrier response, he said, when she answered. Then a sudden drop. The backup stabilizer opened. Did the controller begin an identity cycle? Yes. Joshua was quiet. Don't run it again, he said. Repeated low-voltage stops can corrupt the maintenance memory. Chloe looked at Maria. How long do we have to repair the stabilizer? You still have the budget deadline. But now that the controller has attempted an identity response, I need a status within 10 days. After that, I have to mark the site unreliable and move forward with the temporary plan. The carrier lamp was dark. The new batteries stood ready beneath it, and the one circuit between them and John's answer had just shortened Chloe's month to 10 days. Maria disconnected the stabilizer while Chloe held a flashlight beneath the console. It was a heavy metal box with ventilation slots and 4 thick cables at the back. The mounting screws had rusted into the rail, the last screw stripped. Chloe tried a locking wrench, then stopped when the head began to crumble. "Drill it," she asked, not over the controller. They covered the sealed unit with a rubber mat, placed a magnet beneath the screw, and drilled slowly. Metal shavings collected around the bit. The magnet caught what fell. When the stabilizer came free, Maria carried it to the workbench along the back wall. She removed the outer case and found 2 darkened capacitors beside a cracked terminal mount. "That's repairable," Chloe said, "if the transformer isn't damaged. How do we find out? My bench can supply the right load. At your house? My garage. I rebuilt marine radios there for 20 years after I retired. How soon can we test it?" Maria checked her watch. "Tonight, if you can carry the other end." Before they left, Chloe called the county tax office. The woman on the phone confirmed the amount due and explained that another penalty would be added at the end of the month. "Can the property be transferred with taxes unpaid?" Chloe asked. "It already was. The debt stays with the parcel. What happens if I don't pay?" "You'll continue receiving notices. Eventually, the county can begin a tax sale process. Eventually means when, not next week, if that's what you're asking." It wasn't reassuring, but it gave Chloe a choice. She could postpone the taxes and use the money on the relay, or clear the debt and leave herself almost nothing for repairs. She paid the full balance. The confirmation page appeared on her phone. Chloe stared at the remaining savings underneath it. The number no longer represented caution or a future move to a better apartment. It represented batteries already installed, a roof repair already done, and enough left for a few parts if nothing else failed. Maria waited without asking what the balance was. "It's paid," Chloe said. "Good. I don't feel good. That's because paying old taxes isn't rewarding. It just stops them becoming older taxes." They loaded the stabilizer into Maria's truck. Chloe followed her down the grade, then called the hardware store from a turnout. "I need the afternoon," she told her manager. "You needed yesterday morning too." "I know. You're scheduled in electrical until closing. I can come in at 4. That leaves me short for 6 hours. Chloe looked at the stabilizer strapped into the truck ahead of her. "I'll take it unpaid." "You're already taking it unpaid. I need to know whether this station project is going to keep pulling you out. I have 10 days to finish the important part. And after 10 days? I don't know." Her manager had covered for her before. He had also warned everyone that summer schedules were fixed because 2 employees had left. "I can give you today," he said. "After that, you work your shifts or I put someone else on them." "Understood." It was a fair answer. That didn't make it easier. Maria's garage stood behind a small stucco house on the north side of town. A short radio mast rose beside the roof. Shelves inside held labeled drawers, coils of cable, and equipment that looked nearly as old as the station console. A wooden sign above the bench read, "If you borrow it, bring it back working." "Joshua?" Chloe asked. "Among others." They set the stabilizer on the bench. Maria connected a meter and tested the transformer windings. "Still good," she said. Chloe let out the breath she had been holding. "Don't celebrate. The terminal block is cracked, and those capacitors are finished. Can we buy replacements?" "Yes, if we use the correct ratings. No improvising." They called 3 suppliers. The first carried modern replacements that wouldn't fit the case. The second could order suitable parts in 2 weeks. The third had 2 matching capacitors in San Diego, but the pickup counter closed at 5. Chloe checked the time. If she drove there, she would miss the 4 o'clock shift she had promised to work. "I can go," Maria said. "You have the receiver repair. I can move it." "You already moved it once for me." Maria didn't deny it. "Then decide which promise you're breaking." Chloe called the store again. Her manager listened, then said, "I'll cover today. Tomorrow, be here when your shift starts." "I will." "You've said that twice this week, I know." When the call ended, Chloe felt something in her chest go still. She had always been dependable at work. It was one of the few descriptions nobody argued with. Now the station was taking even that from her. She drove to San Diego, collected the capacitors and a replacement terminal block, and paid with her credit card. Traffic on the return trip turned a 2-hour errand into nearly 4. By the time she reached Maria's garage, the sun had gone down. Maria had cleaned the stabilizer case and removed the damaged parts. A small receiver sat open on a second bench. "You fixed your neighbor's radio too?" Chloe asked. "I said I had a life. I didn't say it was exciting. They worked under bright bench lights." Maria showed Chloe how to discharge the old components before lifting them free. Chloe fitted the new terminal block, measured each lead twice, and soldered the connections. Near midnight, Maria applied a test load. The meter held steady. They increased it in small steps. The repaired stabilizer warmed but stayed within range. "That's one problem answered," Maria said. "One of how many? Machines don't tell you that in advance." Chloe slept for 4 hours, worked a full shift at the store, then returned to the station with Maria the following evening. They reinstalled the stabilizer and connected the batteries. Chloe's arms shook from holding the box against the rail, while Maria started the mounting screws. Her shoulder had begun to ache by the time the final bolt tightened. They didn't run the identity sequence. Joshua's warning remained clear. Instead, Maria had Chloe bring up the backup circuit without the controller load. The green ready lamp settled. They added the console, then the carrier test. Voltage stayed stable. "Hold it for 5 minutes," Maria said. Chloe watched the meter. At 4 minutes, a faint buzzing began behind the wall. They shut down. The sound came from the antenna feed junction outside. Water had entered the hanging cable and corroded the connector. When Chloe loosened the lower clamp, brown water ran onto her glove. "That line can't be energized," Maria said. "How much has to be replaced? At least from here to the frame. Maybe farther." The antenna frame stood on a concrete base beyond the building. Part of the cable climbed through a metal conduit, then crossed an overhead support where the storm had torn it loose. Reaching the upper section would require a lift or climbing equipment Chloe didn't own. Joshua arrived the next morning to inspect the damage. He tested the line from the ground and confirmed the fault. "I can arrange a county lift for the live pole," he said. "I can't use it for private repairs, so I rent one, or hire someone certified to climb." "How much?" "It depends on the damage." Chloe rubbed her sore shoulder. "Everything depends on damage." Joshua looked at her more closely. "Have you slept?" "A little." "Then don't climb anything today." "I wasn't planning to." "You were looking at the frame like you might." Maria handed him the old connector. She repaired the stabilizer. "You tested it under load?" "At my bench and here." Joshua turned the corroded connector in his hand. "Good work. The antenna feed is the next limit." Chloe expected him to leave after that. Instead, he asked if she had 20 minutes. "For what?" "To understand why I'm asking you to spend this money." He drove them down Banner Grade Road in the county vehicle. Maria stayed at the station to inspect the conduit. Joshua's radio carried routine traffic from crews working east of Julian. The voices were clear near the ridge. A few miles down, the signal began to break. He turned onto a narrow turnout above a long, dry ravine and stopped. "Try this," he said, handing Chloe a portable radio. "What do I say?" "County communications test from Banner Grade Marker 7. Chloe pressed the side button. "County communications test from Banner Grade Marker 7. Static answered. She tried again. The words returned in pieces through Joshua's dashboard radio, but half the message was gone. "Now, walk 10 feet toward the road," he said. She did. The portable radio lost even the broken response. Joshua took it and repeated the call. Nothing came back. "This is the dead zone?" Chloe asked. "One edge of it." "What happens during a fire?" "We position mobile equipment if we have time. We send messages through another unit. Sometimes crews move until they regain contact. And if they can't move?" Joshua looked down the grade, then dispatch waits without knowing why. He didn't give her a dramatic example. He didn't need one. The silence from the radio was ordinary, which made it worse. On a clear morning, with no smoke and no emergency, a person could stand beside the road and disappear from the system. "Did the station cover this spot?" Chloe asked. "Yes." "How well?" When John's relay was fully operating, one call reached the ridge and passed through cleanly. "Why didn't the county replace it years ago?" "We planned to." New tower proposals ran into land access, cost, and coverage problems. John kept saying the station was already where it needed to be. He was right. About the location, yes, we still have to prove the equipment. On the drive back, Chloe watched the ridge appear above them. The station was a small shape from the road, easy to overlook if a person didn't know where to look. She had accepted it because refusing would have completed her family's decision without resistance. Then she wanted the lease because it could pay the taxes and give her a home. Those reasons hadn't disappeared. She still needed money, and she still wanted a place nobody could ask her to leave. But they were no longer enough. At the station, Maria had removed the lower conduit cover. The cable inside remained dry. Only the exposed upper section needed replacement. "That's the good news," she said. "The bad news is we need safe access above the support." Chloe took Joshua's county form from her folder. "If we repair the feed and the controller fails continuity, the lease is gone," she said. "That's correct," Joshua replied. "But the station might still pass live traffic. If the hardware works, yes." Could the county use it without the legacy agreement? "Not as a permanent site this year. I could document its performance for the next budget cycle." Maria looked at Chloe. "That means no guaranteed payment." "I understand." It also meant the work wouldn't become worthless if John's records were incomplete. The lease was still urgent, but it was no longer the whole victory. Chloe signed the request for a supervised poll and handed it to Joshua. "I want the legacy status tested," she said. "If it fails, I want a second field test, showing what the relay can still cover." Joshua read the form. "That's a different request. It's the one I'm making." He signed as the receiving manager. After he left, Chloe moved her apartment repair list beneath the control room list. The bowed ceiling, broken cupboard, and bedroom window would have to wait. For the next 9 days, the station came first. She started by making a schedule that depended on nobody in her family. The antenna repair came first. The recorded deed came second. After that, she needed a safe local test, a complete maintenance sequence, and 1 full day without work at the store before the county poll. She booked the day off before anyone could ask her to trade it. She ordered the correct outdoor cable and weatherproof connectors through the hardware store, then reserved a towable lift from a rental yard. The deposit went on her credit card. By the end of the call, there was almost no part of the plan she could afford to repeat. Maria arrived after lunch with a notebook of her own. She had written down everything she remembered about John's weekly routine. "He checked the backup before he sat down," she said. "Then he tested the carrier. After that, he listened." To what? The control speaker. Not for a voice, for the line opening. Chloe looked at the console speaker, a square grill above the meter. Did it make a tone? 1 click, then a low sound. He waited for it to stop before he moved the recessed switch. "Yesterday, we moved the switch while carrier 2 was steady. And then the controller waited for identity. So, what did we miss?" The line opening first. They inspected the speaker circuit with the power off. Dust had packed behind the grill. Chloe removed it with a soft brush and found a small volume control turned completely down. "Would Grandpa have left it like that?" she asked. "No." "Could the appraiser have turned it?" "Maybe. Or Ethan, when he cleared the property." "Ethan says he never came inside." Maria looked at the clean line around the knob. Someone touched it after the rest of this panel collected dust. It wasn't proof of interference. It could have been John, an appraiser, or somebody who entered through the cut gate chain. Still, it explained why Maria hadn't heard the line open. Chloe turned the control back to the small pencil mark on the panel. Maria nodded. That's where John kept it. They added the speaker position to the sequence, then inspected the relay path without powering the controller. A fuse behind the speaker tested open. Chloe replaced it with one from John's bin. "That should give us sound," she said. "It should. We test after the antenna is safe." Waiting was becoming its own kind of work. The next morning, Chloe went to the recorder's office before her shift. She showed identification, paid for a certified copy, and watched the clerk stamp the recording information across the top of the deed. The paper didn't feel different when the clerk handed it back. It still contained the same parcel description and Chloe's name, but it no longer depended on Ethan's folder or Stephanie's memory. Chloe placed it in a waterproof envelope and locked it in her room. At the station, she replaced the open gate chain with a heavier one and kept the county service padlock beside her own. Joshua would have access during authorized work. Her family would not. The lift arrived the following afternoon. The rental employee showed Chloe the emergency lowering controls, checked her harness, and left after she demonstrated safe operation. Maria walked around the machine twice. "You trust it?" Chloe asked. "I trust gravity. This thing has to earn the rest." They positioned the lift on level ground beside the antenna frame and lowered the stabilizing feet. Chloe clipped her harness to the basket and carried up the new cable, clamps, tools, and a sealed connector. From above the roofline, she could see where the storm had twisted the old support. The cable jacket had split against a sharp edge. Water had entered there and traveled down to the lower connector. She cut back the damaged section. The copper beneath it had turned black. "How far?" Maria called. "Another 2 feet at least." Chloe trimmed until she reached clean metal, then fitted the replacement section. She added a protective sleeve where the line crossed the support and secured it with new clamps. The wind picked up before she finished weatherproofing the joint. "Bring it down," Maria called. "I need 5 minutes. You have 2. Chloe wrapped the connector, sealed both ends, and checked the strain relief. The basket began to move slightly. Done. She lowered herself. A stronger gust arrived as her boots touched the ground. Maria looked at the dark clouds gathering beyond the ridge. "You got lucky. I watched the wind. You watched the job." Chloe started to defend herself, then stopped. Maria was right. Finishing had become more important than the conditions around her. "I should have come down sooner," Chloe said. Yes, that was all Maria wanted. They moved the lift away from the frame and lowered the mast before the weather worsened. Rain began in short, hard drops. They waited inside the control room and watched the repaired roof edge. No water appeared beneath it. Chloe placed a dry paper towel against the old stain. It stayed dry. The first practical proof of her work wasn't a lamp or meter. It was a wall that had stopped leaking. When the rain passed, they tested the antenna feed from the junction. The fault was gone. Resistance held where Maria expected it. "Now we can run a local carrier test," Maria said. Chloe called Joshua first. He arrived near sunset with 2 portable radios and a small field receiver. He inspected the repaired cable from the ground, checked Maria's readings, and tested the station ground. "It's safe for low-power operation," he said. "Not the live pole." "We're not asking for that today," Chloe replied. "What are you asking for?" "I want to know whether the relay path reaches the dead zone." Joshua considered it. "A local carrier test can confirm the path. It won't establish identity or continuity." "I understand." He drove to the turnout while Chloe and Maria remained at the station. They stayed on the phone until he reached the point where the portable radio had failed before. "Ready when you are," he said. Chloe ended the call and set her phone beside the console. They brought up the backup circuit. The green ready lamp steadied. Control power followed. The speaker gave a soft click. Maria raised one finger. A low rushing sound came through the grill, then faded. "That's it," she said. The line opened. Chloe selected local maintenance, sent the carrier test, and watched Carrier 2 glow. She used the station microphone for the first time. "Collins Station local test." The words sounded flat through the room speaker. Joshua answered from the portable radio. "Collins Station, received clearly at banner grade marker 7. Chloe looked at Maria. "Again," Maria said. "Collins Station local test, second transmission. Second transmission, received clearly." Joshua moved farther into the weak area and called from another position. Chloe heard every word. On the final test, he lowered his portable radio to its normal power setting. "Collins Station, how do you receive?" Chloe pressed the microphone button. "Clear and steady, confirmed. End local test." She released the button. Maria shut down the carrier, then control power. The green ready lamp remained on until Chloe lowered the backup switch. For the first time, the station had carried a complete exchange from the ridge to a place the county's normal system could not reliably reach. It didn't prove the lease. It didn't recover the controller history. It did prove the building was more than a damaged shell. Joshua returned 20 minutes later and entered the result on the county form. "Coverage is confirmed for the test points," he said. "I'll add it to the site file. Will that help if the continuity check fails? It shows the location and relay path are useful. That supports your request for a future agreement. How much does it help now? Not enough to create money that isn't in this year's budget." Chloe signed beneath his entry. "Then we keep the original deadline." "Yes." "When can you run the live poll?" Joshua checked his calendar. 4 days from now, if the maintenance sequence runs cleanly before then. That leaves 5 days before the status deadline. I want 1 day to review the response before I commit the budget. Maria pointed to the console. "We can test the sequence up to identity weight without asking the controller to answer. Do that once, Joshua said. If the stabilizer holds, stop and call me. A vehicle came through the gate before Chloe could answer. Ethan parked beside the rental lift. He got out with his phone in his hand and took a picture of the antenna frame. Chloe walked outside. Why are you here? I came to talk. You could have called. You don't answer. I answered Mom yesterday. She won't tell me what the county offered, because she doesn't know. Ethan looked past her at Joshua's vehicle. He does. Joshua closed the equipment case. Is there a problem? I'm Ethan Collins. I'm part of the estate. The parcel has been transferred, Joshua said. I'm aware of what the deed says. Then you're aware I can only discuss site terms with the recorded owner. Ethan glanced at Chloe. The refusal told him more than a general explanation would have. The county recognized her control. What did you test? He asked. A local radio path, Chloe said. Did it work? Yes. His eyes moved to the repaired cable, the lift, and the county form in her hand. How much have you spent? He asked. That's not your concern. It is if the estate division gets reviewed. There's no review. There will be. Maria came to the doorway but didn't interrupt. Ethan held up his phone. I've spoken to the probate office. They said a beneficiary can question a distribution based on a material valuation error. Did they say you had one? They said I could file a petition. Then you called to get an answer and drove here to threaten me with the question. I drove here to give you a chance to handle it privately. What does privately mean? You put the station into shared ownership. We reimburse documented costs. Nobody has to fight. Chloe looked at the photograph still open on his phone. He had captured the new antenna cable, the county vehicle, and part of the station sign in one frame. You thought it was scrap, she said. I thought that because the appraisal was wrong. You thought it because you never looked. His mouth tightened. I'll file tomorrow. Chloe wanted to ask Stephanie to stop him. That instinct rose before she could prevent it, familiar and useless. Then it passed. Do what you believe you can defend, she said. She opened the gate and waited. Ethan returned to his truck. On the way out, he stopped to photograph Joshua's county vehicle number. The local test had given Chloe the first result nobody could dismiss. It had also given Ethan a working antenna, an official vehicle, and a visible reason to attack the deed. Ethan's offer arrived by text that evening. I'll pay you $18,000 for the station. You keep whatever equipment or personal items you want. I'll cover the transfer costs. Offer expires at noon tomorrow. Chloe read it twice. He had used the same amount the family placed on the property when it was hers. Now that the antenna worked, $18,000 had become a favor. She wrote back, No. His response came immediately. Then I file. Chloe set the phone face down and joined Maria at the console. They had agreed to run the maintenance sequence only to identity wait. No controller response, no live county command. The backup lamp steadied. Chloe confirmed the voltage, selected local maintenance, and sent the carrier test. The speaker clicked. A low rush filled the room, then stopped. She waited until the line meter settled, just as Maria remembered. Then she used John's metal strip on the recessed switch. The identity wait lamp came on. The stabilizer held. 1 minute passed, then 2. The green ready lamp remained steady, and the controller stayed at the edge of its answer without attempting to send it. Chloe shut down in reverse order. Maria wrote the readings in her notebook. That's all we can prove locally. It's enough for Friday? It's enough to ask. Chloe called Joshua and gave him the results. Good, he said. Keep the station off until the poll. You still have the slot? Friday morning at 9. Her phone vibrated with another incoming call. Stephanie. I have to take this, Chloe said. Joshua heard something in her voice. Call me if the site status changes. Stephanie didn't say hello. Why did you refuse Ethan's offer? Because I don't want to sell. He offered the appraised amount. The amount he says was wrong. He's trying to keep this from becoming expensive. For himself. For all of us. Mom, you already received your part. That doesn't mean I want your brother spending money on legal papers. Then tell him not to. I have. Tell him the deed is mine. Stephanie went quiet. Chloe walked onto the porch so Maria wouldn't have to hear the whole conversation. The ridge had gone dark except for the lights of a few distant houses. What did you sign? Chloe asked. Her mother inhaled sharply. Why would you ask that? Because you're not telling him to stop. Ethan asked me to confirm that none of us knew the equipment was active when we signed the division. Did you confirm it? It's true. That isn't what I asked. Yes, Stephanie said. I signed a statement. Chloe sat on the porch rail. When? This afternoon. Before or after he offered to buy the station. I didn't know about the offer. What else did the statement say? That the valuation may have been incomplete. Based on what? The county vehicle, the antenna work, the fact that you won't explain what's going on. I told you the county received a signal. You didn't tell me they were testing radio coverage. Would it have changed what you signed? Stephanie didn't answer. Chloe looked into the control room. Maria was cleaning John's metal strip with an alcohol wipe. She kept her back turned, offering privacy without pretending she couldn't hear Chloe's side. You gave Ethan what he needed to challenge my deed, Chloe said. I stated facts. You chose which facts. I also said you had spent your own money. That helps his claim. He can say I raised the value after the appraisal. I thought it showed you were acting responsibly. You didn't ask me. Every time I ask, you tell me the property is yours. Because it is. That doesn't mean your decisions don't affect the family. There was the center of it. Stephanie still believed the useful parts of Chloe's life belonged partly to everyone, while the costs belonged to Chloe alone. What do you want me to do? Chloe asked. Meet with Ethan. Put the property back into the estate temporarily. If there's an agreement with the county, the three of us can handle it together. And if there isn't, we sell. Where do I live? You don't live there. I'm trying to. Stephanie made a frustrated sound. In a leaking apartment beside radio equipment? Yes. Why? Because I'm tired of being welcome only when something needs fixing. The words left Chloe before she had arranged them politely. Her mother said, That's not true. The refrigerator stopped knocking. I invited you to dinner, and the moment the station answered, dinner became evidence that we were still one family. That is a cruel thing to say. It may be. It's still what happened. Stephanie's voice hardened. Your grandfather hid this from me too. Did Maria tell you that? He let me believe the station had been shut down while he kept going there behind my back. He knew you didn't want to hear about it. I was his daughter, and I'm yours. Neither spoke. Chloe could hear Stephanie breathing. She imagined her standing in the gray kitchen beside the refrigerator Chloe had repaired. Her mother was hurt, but hurt had not made her honest. It had made her reach for control. I'm not changing the deed, Chloe said. Then I can't stop Ethan. You already helped him. Stephanie ended the call. The petition was filed the next morning. Ethan sent Chloe a copy before the probate office mailed one. He challenged the distribution of the station on the ground that the estate relied on a materially mistaken valuation. He attached the appraisal, photographs of the repaired antenna, the county vehicle, and Stephanie's signed statement. He didn't claim Chloe had done anything illegal. He didn't need to. He asked the probate court to review the transfer and return the parcel to the estate until its value could be determined. Chloe read the filing in the hardware store break room. Her lunch sat unopened beside her. Her manager appeared in the doorway. You're due back in electrical. I know. You all right? No. He waited, but she couldn't explain without using the rest of her break. I need Friday morning, she said. His expression closed. We discussed this. The county scheduled the equipment test. Then reschedule. There isn't time. There's never time when you ask me. Chloe looked at the petition on her phone. I can work Friday evening. The schedule is covered Friday evening. I'll take Saturday. I need you today, as scheduled. I need you tomorrow. I need someone I can put on the board and leave there. It was the same word Chloe had valued in herself, dependable. If I take Friday, what happens? She asked. I move you out of the lead electrical shifts for the rest of the month. Those shifts paid slightly more and gave her first choice of weekend hours. Will I still have a job? Yes. But I'm not building the schedule around the station. Chloe nodded. I'll be here until closing today. And Friday? I need Friday morning. Her manager looked disappointed rather than angry. That cost more. Then I'll change the board, he said. After he left, Chloe opened her lunch and forced herself to eat. Joshua called 20 minutes later. I received notice of the petition, he said. How? Ethan sent it to the county office. Of course he did. I need you to understand what it changes. The deed is still recorded in my name. Yes, the petition doesn't reverse that by itself. So the poll stays Friday. The technical slot can stay. The lease cannot be approved while there's an active ownership challenge. Chloe closed her eyes. The budget deadline doesn't stop. No. If the relay proves continuity, Can you reserve the money? I can recommend it. County review will ask whether the evidence is independent, especially now that the property value is disputed. You are going to accept the controller response for operational eligibility. But I worked with John. Ethan's petition attaches my vehicle and suggests the county relationship was omitted from the appraisal. I can't be the only person authenticating the system. Maria worked there too. That creates the same problem. What do we need? An independent radio engineer, someone who can examine the controller, verify the asset seal, review the timestamps, and witness the live poll. How fast? Before Friday? Or we delay? A delay loses the budget. It may. How much will an engineer cost? I don't know. Emergency scheduling won't be cheap. Chloe looked at her banking app. After the batteries, taxes, parts, cable, and lift, her savings could no longer cover a professional inspection. Her credit card could, barely, if the fee stayed below its remaining limit. If I accept Ethan's offer, what happens to the poll? She asked. The owner decides whether to continue. He'd control it. Yes. And if the station qualifies, the county negotiates with the lawful owner. $18,000 would clear Chloe's repair charges, restore part of her savings, and let her return to work on Friday. She could leave the station before the apartment consumed more money. Ethan would carry the risk. He would also control the relay, the county access, and John's answer before Chloe had heard it. Send me names, she said. Chloe, hiring someone doesn't guarantee a result. I understand. And if the petition succeeds later, you may not recover the cost. I understand that too. Joshua sent a short list of qualified engineers. 2 couldn't come within the week. The third, Travis Bird, could inspect Thursday afternoon and return Friday morning for the poll. His written estimate used nearly all the credit Chloe had left. She called him from the stockroom. I need to know one thing, she said. Do you work for the county? No. The Collins estate? No. Have you worked on this station before? Never seen it. Chloe accepted the estimate. That evening, she printed the engagement form and signed at the small table in her rented room. Then she emailed Ethan and Stephanie one sentence. The county test will proceed Friday with independent authentication. She didn't ask either of them to agree. She didn't ask her mother to withdraw the statement, or her brother to reconsider the petition. She sent Joshua confirmation, took Friday morning at the cost of her better shifts, and accepted that proving the station's answer might leave her with debt, damaged family ties, and no lease at all. Thursday afternoon, Travis arrived in a white work van with no company slogan on the doors. He carried 2 hard cases into the control room and asked everyone to step outside while he photographed the room before touching anything. That includes me? Chloe asked. That especially includes the person paying me. He photographed the console cover, the breaker cabinet, the battery rack, the stabilizer, the antenna feed, and the controller behind the lower door. Then he asked Chloe to show him the recorded deed. She handed him the certified copy, but kept the original envelope in her bag. Travis compared the parcel description with the station address and wrote the recording number in his notes. This confirms who holds the parcel today, he said. It doesn't tell me whether the probate challenge has merit. I'm not paying you to decide that. Good, because I won't. He wore thin gloves before examining the equipment seal. He used a magnifying lens and a narrow light, then took close photographs of the wire, stamped metal tab, and both sealed screws. Joshua stood near the door. Maria remained beside the workbench. Neither offered information until Travis asked. Who last opened this controller? He said. Maria answered, I never did. Joshua said, neither did I. Travis looked at Chloe. I opened the lower access door. I haven't opened the controller. Who repaired the stabilizer? Maria and me. Was the controller disconnected? The stabilizer was disconnected from the backup circuit. We labeled the cables first. Photos? Chloe showed him. He reviewed the images one by one, checking dates and close views of the terminals. You documented more than most commercial crews, he said. Maria made me. Maria shook her head. I told her once. That was enough, Chloe said. Travis tested the seal without pulling it. A small fiber beneath the stamped tab remained fixed in place. He compared the asset number on the seal with the plate above the console and the number in Joshua's county record. All 3 match, he said. Does that prove it's the original controller? Chloe asked. It proves this sealed unit is the one assigned to the registered site number. The age, fasteners, oxidation, and seal condition are consistent. I'll give a final opinion after I check the service port. He removed a small cap beside the controller. The port sat outside the sealed case, which allowed maintenance readings without opening the unit. Travis connected a rate-only device. Before powering anything, he placed a tamper label over a switch on his own reader. "I don't want anyone saying I wrote to the controller," he said. "This setting permits retrieval only." He asked Chloe to bring up the backup circuit. She followed the sequence. 6 batteries connected, main power off, antenna feed safe, yellow guard up, backup on. The green lamp held. Travis watched his meter for 5 minutes, then added the controller's resting load. The repaired stabilizer remained within range. "Voltage is clean," he said. "Better than I expected." Maria looked at Chloe, but neither celebrated. Travis connected his reader. Lines of plain text appeared on its small screen. Most were codes Chloe couldn't understand. "Is the memory there?" she asked. "Something is. Can you see the check-ins? I can see stored entries with date and time fields. I'm not interpreting continuity until the controller completes its own identity response. Why? Because loose data can be copied or misunderstood. The controller has to associate the records with its registered site identifier." He scrolled without saving the detailed contents. The dates moved backward through years. Chloe caught a glimpse of a recent year, then another, then a much older one. There were more entries than she had expected. "Are the timestamps real?" she asked. "The internal clock pattern is consistent. There's normal drift and correction over time." "What does that mean?" "A fabricated list often looks too clean. This doesn't." Joshua stepped closer. "Can you determine whether the memory was reset?" Travis checked another line. "No reset flag after commissioning. No service right event recorded through this port." "That's good?" Chloe asked. "It removes one question. The stored history appears to have accumulated inside this controller. Uninterrupted? I didn't say that." "You're careful. That's what you hired." He disconnected the reader, replaced the service cap, and applied a numbered inspection label beside it. The county seal remained untouched. Then he tested the antenna feed, station ground, backup response, and the local maintenance sequence. Chloe performed the controls while he watched. The speaker clicked. The line opened. "Carrier 2 answered. The identity wait lamp came on. The stabilizer held for 3 minutes. "Stop there," Travis said. Chloe shut the system down. He wrote for nearly 20 minutes at the workbench. His preliminary report confirmed that the asset numbers matched, the equipment seal was intact. The service port showed no reset or write event. The controller held time-stamped records, and the repaired circuits were stable enough for a supervised live poll. It did not say the station qualified for the lease. "That's all?" Chloe asked. "That's what I can support before the poll. You're not staying tomorrow? My report is the independent authentication. I don't need to stand here while the controller speaks for itself." Joshua said, "County receiving equipment will record the live response." "And your office will preserve that record," Travis replied. "My presence would add another person, not better evidence." He signed the report, gave copies to Chloe and Joshua, packed his cases, and left. His inspection charge posted to Chloe's credit card before his van reached the gate. Chloe looked at the total. The card had less room left than the cost of one night in a motel. If the apartment ceiling fell or her car needed a repair, she had no plan. Maria read the report again. "He removed the tampering question," she said. "Ethan will find another one." "Probably." Joshua placed his copy in the county case. "The technical file is ready. What about the petition? It remains open. Can the county use tomorrow's result?" "For eligibility, yes. For a lease, county review will need confidence that it is contracting with the lawful owner. My deed establishes that. It establishes current title. Ethan is asking the probate court to undo the transfer. Has the court ordered anything? No? Then the property is mine." "Yes." Joshua didn't argue. He was distinguishing a fact from the risk around it. "What would county review need?" Chloe asked. "A clean poll, Travis's report, your recorded deed, and either a resolution of the petition or enough information to determine the petition doesn't prevent us from proceeding. You said the budget closes soon." "It does." "How soon after the poll can you present the agreement? If the response qualifies, I can bring the lease documents here the same day." Maria looked at him. "You already prepared them." "I prepared documents for a possible result. That isn't a promise." "Of course not." Joshua ignored the tone. There's another issue. Ethan sent a written request to attend the poll. Chloe turned from the console. Can he? Not without your permission. He has no county access right and no current ownership interest in the parcel. Did Stephanie ask too? No. What did you tell him? That site access is the owner's decision, Maria said. Then the decision is easy. Chloe knew what she meant. Keep Ethan outside. Run the poll privately. Give Joshua the deed and Travis's report. If the controller proved continuity, let the county's interest make the petition harder to maintain. It was the safer choice. It was also close to what Ethan had done at the estate meeting. Decide first. Present the result after everyone else had lost the power to question it. He'll say we hid the test, Chloe said. He'll say something either way, Maria replied. Could his presence affect the equipment? Joshua asked. Not if he stays where I put him. Then this isn't a technical decision. No, it wasn't. Chloe walked through the apartment while they waited. The kitchen ceiling remained bowed. Stephanie's breakfast bag sat folded beside the counter. Chloe hadn't thrown it away because she used paper bags for debris. That ordinary reuse made the last visit feel closer than it was. Her mother had signed against her. Ethan had petitioned against her. Chloe didn't owe them access, but John's hidden work had shaped the division before any of them understood it. If the controller answered, the information would permanently change what Stephanie believed about her father and what Ethan believed he had thrown away. Chloe could use that moment as a weapon, or she could make sure nobody controlled the facts alone. She returned to the control room. They can attend the second poll, she said. Joshua frowned. Second, run the first one with only the people needed to protect the equipment. If it produces a valid response, call them here and repeat it while you present the county's terms. Maria studied her. Why give Ethan time to interfere? He won't touch the console. He won't bring anyone else. Those are the conditions. And if the first poll fails, then there's nothing to stage. Joshua considered the schedule. A second poll won't damage the controller if the first cycle completes normally. Will both responses be recorded? Yes. Then I want everyone to receive the same evidence. Maria closed her notebook. Your mother may not thank you. I'm not doing it for thanks. Chloe called Stephanie first. The county is testing the station at 9 tomorrow, she said. If the equipment qualifies, there will be a second test and a meeting at 11. You can attend. Will Ethan be there? I'm giving him the same conditions. What conditions? You come without an attorney, appraiser, or anyone else. You stay out of the equipment area until I let you in. You don't touch anything. If you refuse, the meeting goes on without you. Stephanie was silent. Are you asking us to withdraw the petition? She said. No. Then what is this? A chance to see what Grandpa left in operation. Chloe called Ethan next. He tried to ask about the lease amount, the county test, and Travis's report. You'll receive copies at 11 if the first poll succeeds, she said. Why not now? Because I paid for the inspection, repaired the station, and control access. That sounds like leverage. It's a boundary. Same thing when money's involved. Come or don't. He agreed before she ended the call. Joshua scheduled both polling windows and added the conditions to the site record. Maria checked the control room lock. Chloe placed the certified deed, Travis's report, repair photographs, receipts, and county form into one binder. Using the controller's answer would no longer affect only the lease. It would end the family's ability to pretend they had all made the same mistake together. Chloe locked the binder in the lower cabinet and kept the key with her. At 8 the next morning, the green backup lamp had been steady for 20 minutes. Chloe checked the battery voltage once more. Maria inspected the antenna feed outside, then closed the junction cover. Joshua set a county receiver on the workbench and connected a recorder between it and his computer. Nobody talked about what might happen. At 8:55, Joshua called his office. Banner grade legacy site ready for supervised poll. A voice confirmed the request through his radio. Joshua entered the station number, then turned the computer screen toward Chloe. This is the receiving log, he said. At 9, the county system sends the registered poll. The station has to return its own identifier before any maintenance data is accepted. Do I touch the console? Only if it fails to leave identity wait. What would I do then? Shut it down. We don't force a second attempt until we know why. Maria stood beside the stabilizer meter. Chloe sat in John's chair. At 9, Joshua's computer marked the outgoing command. The control room speaker clicked. A low rush filled the room. Carrier 2 came on, followed by the identity wait lamp. The line meter rose. For 2 seconds, nothing else happened. Chloe kept her hands flat on the console. Then, a green lamp beneath the controller lit. Site identified. Joshua's computer sounded once. Text appeared on the screen. Collins Signal Station. The county asset number followed it. Maria looked at Chloe, but didn't move from the meter. Voltage steady, she said. The controller began sending records. Dates appeared in order, each connected to a weekly maintenance response. The list moved back through the years. John had kept visiting the ridge. Joshua slowed the display. The last response entered during John's life had been recorded the week before he went into the hospital. A later entry followed at the next required interval, then another. Chloe leaned closer. Who sent those? The automatic maintenance routine, Joshua said. John programmed the controller to answer the weekly county check without a person present. He kept it going after he couldn't come back. Yes, the records continued, week after week, year after year. The carrier path had remained quiet unless polled, but the controller had answered every scheduled maintenance check. Joshua compared the entries with the county's legacy channel log. The times matched. No interruption, he said. Chloe heard Maria release a breath. At the bottom of the response, another field opened. Maintenance direction. The controller sent one final line. Relay remains in service. Renew operating agreement with lawful parcel owner. John hadn't written Chloe's name. He hadn't written Stephanie's or Ethan's either. He had left the decision attached to the duty. Whoever lawfully took the station, paid its bills, restored its power, and brought the relay back to the county would receive the agreement. The answer didn't say he loved Chloe more. It said the station had never been abandoned. Joshua saved the county recording in 2 locations and printed the receiving log. Maria shut down the controller in sequence. Chloe remained in John's chair. For years, she had wanted evidence that she held a special place in the family. John had left something more demanding. He had trusted the work to reach the person willing to do it. Joshua placed the printed response in front of her. This establishes legacy eligibility, he said. Enough for the lease? With the recorded deed and independent report, yes. What about the petition? There's no order affecting title. The county can contract with the current recorded owner. The agreement includes a standard provision requiring notice if a court later changes ownership. So Ethan can keep fighting. He can. The county won't decide that for him. Chloe nodded. That was as it should be. At 10:45, Maria opened the gate. Stephanie arrived first. She wore a blue blouse and carried her purse with both hands. Ethan drove in behind her and parked close to Joshua's vehicle. Chloe met them outside. The equipment area is narrow, she said. Maria stays at the stabilizer. Joshua controls the county pole. You stand behind the floor tape. Ethan looked through the doorway. You already ran it? Yes. What happened? You'll see the same response. Then give me the report before we go in. You receive everything inside. Stephanie touched his arm. Let's just do this. They entered the control room. Yellow tape marked a line behind John's chair. Ethan stopped at it, but didn't look pleased. Joshua placed 4 document sets on the workbench. Ethan pointed to them. Before you run anything, I want it noted that the estate doesn't accept this equipment as part of an $18,000 valuation. Joshua said, the county isn't revising the estate appraisal. You're assigning value to the property. I'm determining whether an existing operating agreement can be renewed, based on repairs made after the transfer, based on the relay's operational history. Ethan folded his arms. He had come prepared to commit to one explanation. The station had been inactive when Chloe received it. Her repairs and county contact had created new value. Therefore, the new value belonged to the estate that would have pursued it if everyone had known. The history doesn't change what happened, he said. Nobody knew this site had county use. The appraisal called it obsolete. Chloe spent money after the deed was signed. That's an improvement, not an inheritance. Chloe listened without interrupting. Stephanie looked at the console. Did Dad know there was still an agreement? Joshua answered carefully. John knew the operating rule. Whether the agreement could be renewed depended on continuous relay operation and the lawful parcel owner requesting it. So, if we'd sold the station, she asked, the buyer could have requested the same review, assuming the relay remained operational. Ethan seized on that, which proves the value existed before the transfer. The opportunity existed, Joshua said. Eligibility still had to be established, and she only established it because Maria and the county helped her. Maria spoke from beside the meter. Your sister replaced the batteries, repaired the stabilizer, fixed the antenna feed, paid the taxes, and hired the independent engineer. I know what she spent. No, Chloe said. You know what you photographed. Ethan turned toward her. I gave you the chance to settle. You offered the appraisal amount after you decided the appraisal was wrong. I offered to remove the risk and take the control. That's what responsible management looks like. Chloe opened the binder. Here's the recorded deed. Here are the tax receipt, repair records, Travis's authentication, and the county request. You'll each receive a copy. Ethan picked up the deed first. Stephanie read Travis's report. Her hand slowed at the section describing the original seal and untouched controller memory. Dad didn't open it? She asked. No, Maria said. He maintained the equipment around it. He left the records sealed. Yes. Ethan looked at Joshua. That doesn't prove the property was meant for Chloe. Chloe placed the county receiving log face down on the console. No, she said. The station will tell you what Grandpa protected. The deed tells you who owns it. Joshua checked the time and called his office. Colin's site ready for second supervised poll. The outgoing command appeared on his computer. The speaker clicked. Stephanie flinched at the sound. Ethan watched the console with his jaw set. Carrier 2 glowed. Identity weight followed. Then the green sight lamp came on. Joshua turned the screen so everyone could see. Colin's signal station. The asset number matched the controller seal, Travis's report, and the county file. The maintenance history began to scroll. Joshua stopped at John's final personal check-in, then showed the automatic responses that followed it. Each weekly timestamp matched the county log. There was no gap. Stephanie lowered Travis's report. He kept checking it, she said. Until he couldn't, Maria replied. Then the controller continued the routine he set. The final field opened. Relay remains in service. Renew operating agreement with lawful parcel owner. Nobody spoke while the line remained on the screen. Ethan read it again. He could have named anyone, he said. He didn't, Chloe replied. That isn't an answer. It's his answer. The person who owns the station carries the responsibility. He didn't know we'd divide it this way. No, neither did I. That removed the cruelest interpretation before Ethan could make it. Chloe wasn't claiming John had arranged the family division to embarrass them. He had preserved a rule. Ethan and Stephanie had chosen who received the burden. Stephanie sat in the chair beside the workbench. I thought it was dead, she said. You didn't check, Chloe replied. Her mother nodded once. There was no defense left inside that fact. Joshua ended the poll and saved the second recording. The station qualifies for renewal, he said. The proposed operating lease is $54,000 annually. The owner must maintain power, equipment access, brush clearance, inspections, and relay readiness. Ethan looked at Chloe. For the first time, he understood the scale of what he had tried to buy for $18,000. This should return to the estate, he said, but the certainty had gone out of his voice. Chloe didn't argue. She slid the certified deed across the workbench. The county recognizes the recorded owner, Joshua said. Any challenge to that deed belongs in probate court. There is no current order preventing execution. He removed the prepared lease from his case. Chloe read every page. The county received scheduled access and emergency entry rights. She remained responsible for the building, utilities, maintenance, and safe operation. Payments began after the first full month of verified service. The agreement wasn't instant wealth. It was a job tied to a damaged place. She signed. Joshua signed for the county, dated the agreement, and gave Chloe her copy. No one applauded. The carrier lamp remained dark after shutdown. Rain damage still marked the wall, and the apartment ceiling still bowed over the sink. But the power in the room had changed. Ethan could continue his petition, yet he could no longer claim Chloe had created the station's value after the transfer. The sealed controller had recorded John's uninterrupted work and its own weekly answers. Stephanie could no longer call the property an empty liability. Joshua had the relay his department needed, under the rule John had maintained. Chloe had the lease, the duty, and the only key to the control room door. She placed that key in her pocket and told Ethan and Stephanie they could stay for the accounting, but shared control was no longer open for discussion. Joshua began with the county agreement because it carried the first real obligations. The first payment won't arrive until the station completes a full month of verified service, he said. Until then, operating costs remain yours. Ethan looked at Chloe. You knew that? I read the lease. You signed away emergency access to the property. I granted defined access to the control room and equipment path. Joshua opened the site map. The county can enter for scheduled maintenance with notice. Emergency access applies when the relay is needed and the owner can't be reached. So, county crews can come through her home? Stephanie asked. Not the apartment. The operating area is marked here. Chloe leaned over the map. I want the apartment path separated from the equipment path before service begins. That's reasonable, Joshua said. Install a gate between the porch and control yard. The county lock stays on the outer gate and equipment door. Your private lock stays on the apartment gate. Ethan gave a small, humorless laugh. You're building a home inside a county work site. I'm separating a home from a work site. That costs money too. Yes. The debt hadn't vanished when Chloe signed. Neither had the lost shifts, the broken ceiling, or the credit card balance. She would need to keep working at the hardware store until lease payments became dependable. Even then, much of the first year's income would return to the station. Joshua showed them the maintenance requirements in plain language. Chloe had to keep the backup batteries tested, the antenna feeds secure, the brush cleared, and the control room accessible for scheduled inspections. If the relay failed and remained unavailable, payments could stop until service returned. This isn't $54,000 for owning land, Chloe said to Ethan. It's $54,000 for operating the station. It still changes the value. Yes. And you expect me to pretend it doesn't? No. I expect you to include the obligations when you talk about the value. Chloe passed him the repair receipts. Ethan added the totals on his phone. Batteries, taxes, lift rental, cable, parts, hazardous waste fees, Travis's inspection, and smaller purchases filled 2 pages. You put this much on a credit card? Stephanie asked. Some? Why didn't you tell me? What would you have done? I might have helped. You signed Ethan's statement the same day. Stephanie looked down. Joshua moved to the controller history. He showed them how the weekly responses matched the county record. Maria explained the maintenance routine John had used while he could still visit. Neither of them guessed at John's private feelings. He didn't tell me, Stephanie said. Maria closed her notebook. You didn't want station conversations. That doesn't mean he had to hide it. No. It means the two of you stopped talking about the one thing he spent 33 years maintaining. Stephanie looked at her sharply. Maria didn't look away. John could be difficult. He decided silence was simpler than disagreement. It wasn't. Chloe had expected Maria to defend him without limit. Hearing her name John's part mattered. The hidden work wasn't a perfect gift from a perfect man. It was a responsibility he had protected while leaving his family to misunderstand it. Ethan tapped the final controller message. This could mean any owner. It does, Chloe said. If Mom had taken the station, the county would renew with her. Yes. If we'd sold it to a stranger, the stranger could have qualified. Yes. Then Grandpa didn't choose you. Chloe held his gaze. I stopped needing that to be true. Ethan seemed almost offended. He had been preparing to take away the idea that John had favored her. When she didn't defend it, he lost the argument he wanted. Stephanie touched the printed line. Dad chose the station, she said. He chose the rule, Joshua replied. The owner who kept the relay operating could renew, and we gave it to Chloe because we thought it was worthless. No one corrected her. The words sounded bitter in the small room. You can say you didn't inspect what you distributed, Chloe said. You didn't inspect it either. I did after it became mine. You had Maria. You had 4 years. He stood and walked to the door. For a moment, Chloe thought he would leave without taking his copies. Stephanie said, Are you withdrawing the petition? Ethan turned. Why should I? Because the information wasn't hidden from Chloe. She found it afterward. The value existed before. So did the debt, Chloe said. So did the storm damage. You assigned all of it to me, because you liked the place. You said I should refuse it. That was before. Exactly. Ethan looked at the lease, then at Joshua. If the court returns the property to the estate, does the lease return too? The agreement follows lawful ownership, Joshua said. The operational duties follow it as well. And the county would pay the estate if the estate became the recorded owner and accepted the obligations. Ethan was still calculating. He hadn't suddenly become sorry. He was deciding whether the likely gain justified legal costs, delay, a disputed lease, and responsibility for a station he didn't know how to operate. What happens if nobody maintains it? He asked. Service fails, Joshua said. Payments stop. Ethan looked at Maria. Would you work for the estate? No. The answer came without anger. For the county, I'm retired. For Chloe, if we agree on the work. That closed another path Ethan had been measuring. He gathered his copies. I'll review this. Do that, Chloe said. But you don't enter the property without permission. You don't contact county staff as if you represent the owner. If you continue the petition, communication about it stays in writing. You're making this sound hostile. I'm making it clear. He left without apologizing. Stephanie remained in the chair. Joshua packed the county receiver, and Maria began checking the shutdown sequence. They gave mother and daughter the room without announcing it. I was afraid, Stephanie said. Chloe waited. The savings in the house felt safe. I'm closer to retirement than you understand. Ethan kept saying he could manage the other property, and you knew how to repair things. So I got the thing that needed repair. Yes. It was the first time Stephanie had said it without decorating the choice. I told myself you wanted it, she continued. That made it easier for you. Yes. An apology began to form in her expression, but Chloe didn't help her finish it. What are you going to do about the statement you signed? Chloe asked. Stephanie glanced toward the doorway where Ethan had disappeared. I'll file another statement. I'll say I've seen the controller response and that the county use existed before the distribution. That still supports the mistaken valuation. It supports the truth. Will you also say Ethan and you selected the appraiser, cleared Grandpa's house, and assigned the station without an equipment inventory? Stephanie's face tightened. Yes, she said after a moment. Then send me a copy before you file it. You don't trust me, not with this. The words hurt her. Chloe let them. Trust couldn't be repaired by sparing Stephanie from knowing it was damaged. Her mother nodded. At the door, she stopped. I have Dad's watch, I know. I took it because he wore it every day. I know that too. The alarm went off last Thursday morning. I never cleared it. Chloe pictured the scratched black face and the alarm John had used before his station checks. Bring it next time, she said. Stephanie almost smiled, then understood that next time wasn't an invitation to return whenever she wanted. I'll call first. Yes. She left. Joshua handed Chloe a service schedule before driving away. The first county inspection would occur in 2 weeks. He needed the equipment path cleared and the new access separation installed before then. I can help lay out the gate, he said. Installation stays yours. Understood. I'll be here Monday for the first weekly check. As county manager, as the person responsible for accepting your maintenance report. It was a professional answer, and Chloe appreciated it. Maria remained after everyone else left. She sat on the porch while Chloe locked the county documents in the lower cabinet. You still want occasional maintenance work? Chloe asked. I want to see your budget first. You don't trust me either? I trust you to spend too much before you sleep. Chloe sat beside her. I can pay after the first county payment. Then I start after the first county payment. Until then, I'll help finish what we began. That isn't fair to you. No, so you can repair my garage door in exchange. What's wrong with it? Nothing yet. It's old. They agreed on a limited arrangement. Maria would assist with the weekly check when needed and provide backup maintenance after the lease began paying. Chloe would remain the operator, not hand the station to someone who knew more. 2 days later, Stephanie emailed her revised statement. It included every fact Chloe had requested. She didn't ask whether the statement was enough to repair anything between them. Ethan waited until the following morning. His message contained no apology. Chloe replied with the executed lease and receiving log. She also repeated that access required permission. The withdrawal ended his claim. It didn't make him welcome. That afternoon, Ethan delivered the remaining station items from his storage unit. He left the plastic bin inside the gate and drove away before Chloe reached the property. The missing county notices were not there. Neither were any station records. He had returned the objects once he understood they carried work instead of control. Stephanie came later, after calling. She brought John's watch and a pair of work gloves. She placed the watch in Chloe's hand, then looked at the apartment ceiling. I can remove damaged plaster, she said. Have you ever done that? No, it's dirty. I brought gloves. Chloe gave her a respirator and showed her where to start. They worked for an hour without discussing forgiveness. When Stephanie left, one wet section of ceiling was open, the ruined insulation was bagged, and the sound wood above it was finally visible. The next morning, Chloe found a note from Stephanie beneath the empty coffee cup on the porch. "I can come back Wednesday if you want help with the rest." Chloe sent a reply after thinking about it. "Wednesday at 5, call before you drive up." Stephanie called at 4:30 on Wednesday. She arrived with sandwiches, clean gloves, and a folding work light. They removed the remaining damaged plaster, pulled out wet insulation, and treated the exposed wood. When Stephanie suggested replacing the whole ceiling, Chloe said, "I can't afford that yet. I could pay for it." Would the money come with an opinion about the apartment? Her mother looked up at the open ceiling. Probably, then no. Stephanie accepted the answer. The following week, she brought 2 sheets of drywall and the receipt. "These are a gift," she said. "You choose when they go up. I won't ask for a key." Chloe accepted the drywall. That was the first test. The second came when Ethan emailed to ask whether the county had made its first payment. Chloe sent him the executed agreement again and explained that payment followed a full month of verified service. He replied that he only wanted accurate information for the estate records. Chloe sent a final accounting of the property transfer, tax payment, controller authentication, county findings, lease obligations, and petition withdrawal. She copied Stephanie. "This closes my accounting to the estate. Future operating records are private business records." Ethan didn't answer for 3 days. Then he wrote, "Understood." He didn't apologize. He didn't ask to visit. He also didn't contact Joshua again or enter the property. The distance between them remained, but it had a clear shape now. Chloe no longer spent evenings trying to turn his silence into approval. The new gate between the apartment porch and equipment yard took 2 days to install. Joshua marked the required width for county access. Chloe dug the post holes, set the posts, and hung the gate herself. The apartment side received a plain black lock. The equipment side received the county lock. During the first inspection, Joshua arrived at the outer gate, announced himself by phone, and waited. "You have a key," Chloe said when she opened it. "It's scheduled access. You're available?" He followed the marked path to the control room and checked the relay log. Chloe performed the weekly sequence while he watched. Backup ready, line open, carrier test, identity response. The station answered. Joshua signed the maintenance sheet. "You're 6 minutes faster than John," he said. He stopped for coffee. He stopped to argue. "With you? With anyone available." The relay passed its inspection. Joshua didn't congratulate her, as if the work were finished. He scheduled the next check and left a replacement county lock seal in the service drawer. That afternoon, Chloe and Maria cleared dry brush from the antenna base. They filled 6 heavy bags and cut back branches along the equipment path. Maria stopped after an hour and sat in the shade. "You need to hire younger help for this part," she said. "I thought you were younger help. I'm 70. You're confused." Chloe handed her water. The first lease payment arrived after a full month of service. Chloe opened her banking app at the control room desk and checked the deposit twice. She paid the credit card first. Then she paid Maria for the maintenance hours they had agreed upon. Maria examined the payment and called Chloe immediately. "This is too much. It includes the garage door credit." "My garage door still works. You said it was old. That wasn't a bill. It is now." Maria returned part of the payment and sent a written invoice for the rest. They settled on an hourly rate for occasional maintenance, with a minimum call charge Maria insisted upon because, as she said, retirement had cured her of free emergency work. Chloe used the remaining money for the apartment roof, safe wiring, insulation, and a licensed inspection of the living space. The repairs didn't happen at once. For several weeks, she still slept in the rented room behind the hardware store. She worked the shifts left on the schedule, even though she no longer led the electrical section. Her manager watched her arrive on time for 3 straight weeks before placing her back on one Saturday lead shift. "You staying this time?" he asked. "I'm finishing what I started." "That isn't an answer. I'll work the posted schedule. Station inspections go around it unless there's an emergency." He nodded. "That's an answer." Chloe kept both jobs through the end of summer. On evenings at the station, she installed kitchen cabinets salvaged from a remodel. She sanded the doors and painted them a warm cream color. The old refrigerator was removed. A smaller used one fit beneath the counter, and made no knocking sound. Stephanie came on Wednesdays when invited. She learned to measure drywall without borrowing Chloe's pencil every 3 minutes. She installed one panel crooked, noticed it herself, and asked to redo it. "Can we fix the seam?" she said. "We can." Chloe didn't say it was good enough just to spare her feelings. They removed the screws, raised the panel, and set it straight. Later, Stephanie washed the plaster dust from her hands in the utility sink. "Would you come to dinner Sunday?" she asked. "Who'll be there?" "Ethan." Chloe dried her hands. "I'm not ready." Stephanie looked disappointed, but she didn't argue. "Another time?" "Maybe." The invitation wasn't forgiveness, and refusal wasn't punishment. It was simply too soon. In early autumn, the county used the relay during a scheduled wildfire communications drill. Chloe stood beside Joshua while radio calls passed through the station to the same stretch of road where the portable unit had failed. Each message arrived clear. Joshua checked the receiving log. "That closes the coverage requirement. What happens now?" "We keep it working." He said it as John might have, without ceremony. The control room changed gradually. Chloe cleaned the cabinet fronts and replaced the broken window. She kept John's reading glasses in the shallow drawer. His metal strip hung beside the maintenance panel, labeled in her handwriting so nobody would mistake it for scrap. The gray console cover was washed, repaired, and folded on a shelf for use during dusty work. The console no longer needed to stay hidden beneath it. Maria brought a small framed photograph of the station from its first year. John stood beside the new antenna frame, thinner and darker haired, with Maria near the control room door. "I found it in my garage," she said. "Do you want it here?" "That's why I brought it." Chloe hung it above the workbench, not in the apartment. It belonged with the equipment and the people who had kept it running. By the second month, adult volunteer radio operators began using the control room for supervised training. Chloe limited each session to a small group. She showed them the battery rack, the isolated feed switch, and the order of the weekly check. One man reached toward the yellow guard before she finished explaining. Chloe said, "Hands off until you know the sequence." Maria, seated at the workbench, hid a smile. The volunteers learned to record readings, test the local carrier, and report a fault without guessing. Afterward, they drank coffee on the porch and watched the evening settle over the grade. The station no longer felt isolated. It felt protected. Stephanie attended one training session after asking permission. She stayed behind the floor tape and listened while Chloe explained the relay path. When the session ended, she gathered paper cups and wiped the workbench. "You're good at this," she said. Chloe stacked the training sheets. "Grandpa taught me the beginning. You did the rest." It was the first compliment Stephanie gave her that didn't lead to a request. Before leaving, she handed Chloe John's watch. Chloe had kept it in the apartment, but Stephanie had taken it to have the band cleaned and the alarm checked. "I set Thursday morning again," she said. "You can change it." Chloe fastened it around her wrist. The scratch face looked large against her hand. "I'll keep Thursday." Stephanie nodded. Ethan didn't come to the station that season. At Christmas, he sent Chloe a message asking whether she wanted to meet for coffee in town. She agreed to half an hour. He talked about work, the commercial tenant, and their mother. Near the end, he said, "I should have inspected the station." "Yes, I still think the valuation was wrong." It was. He seemed surprised by her agreement. "But the risk was mine when you gave it to me," she said. "You don't get to reclaim only the part that worked. I know that now." He paid for his own coffee. Chloe paid for hers. They left without hugging and drove in different directions. It wasn't a restored relationship. It was the first conversation they had had without either person trying to take something. Winter rain tested the roof. Chloe placed a dry paper towel beneath the old control room stain, just as she had months earlier. It stayed dry overnight. The apartment roof held too. Water ran into the gutters and away from the foundation. Inside, the cream cabinet doors closed properly, the bedroom window sealed against the wind, and the repaired ceiling showed only one faint line where Stephanie's first panel had been reset. Chloe left the line visible. If stories about young people rebuilding a life after family betrayal matter to you, subscribe and return for the next inheritance story. On a cold Thursday evening, Chloe finished the maintenance check and entered the final reading in the log. The carrier lamp held steady until she ended the sequence. Maria had gone home after the training session. Joshua had already confirmed the county record. The outer gate was locked, the equipment path clear, and the apartment gate closed behind Chloe. She climbed the short interior stairs, carrying John's watch, her tool pouch, and 2 clean coffee cups. One went into the cupboard for Maria's next visit. The heater clicked on. Warm air moved through the small kitchen. Chloe switched off the work light above the sink and stood for a moment beside the repaired window. Below her, the relay continued its quiet watch over Banner Grade Road. A radio message passed through, too soft to hear from the apartment, and the station recorded it without asking anyone to prove the place mattered. Chloe was inside the warm keeper's apartment while the restored control room lamp glowed steadily below.